Chapter 2176. Xiaohua's figure had already reached the mouth of the cauldron and was about to fall into it. The nascent soul let out a small wild laugh. Ha ha ha. This old man wants to see what ability you have to escape from this old man's one-chi divine cauldron. However, he was only able to finish his words when he saw Xiaohua's somewhat despairing eyes slightly brighten. A yellow figure flashed out from Xiaohua's chest and pounced on the nascent soul like a yellow wind. Ah! In an instant, the nascent soul's eyes contracted. A feeling of being stared at by his natural nemesis involuntarily flashed from the bottom of his heart. The nascent soul made a prompt decision and immediately teleported, disappearing from its original place. It rushed towards Daoist Jingrong in a panic, as if only Daoist Jingrong's body was the safest place. Spirit Beast. Daoist Jingrong, who was watching from a distance, almost wanted to cry. He clearly knew in his heart that Xiaohua's spirit beast was the kind that could devour nascent souls. Otherwise, his nascent soul wouldn't have disregarded everything and run back with all its might. Daoist Jingrong didn't dare to be careless. This nascent soul was his foundation. He hastily swallowed another spirit pill and once again urged his magic power to welcome the nascent soul. The one-chi divine cauldron suction force suddenly stopped. Xiaohua's dharma body and physical body both stopped under the cauldron. Xiaohua hesitated for a moment. When he saw Goldie, he was somewhat confused. Goldie was afraid that it wouldn't be able to catch up with the nascent soul before Daoist Jingrong could welcome it. He didn't dare to stay for a moment, so while calling Goldie back, he flicked his big sleeve and used the heaven and earth sleeve technique to cover the one-chi divine cauldron. Seeing Xiaohua easily receive the cauldron, Daoist Jingrong was stunned, truly stunned. Silly, how could a first-level chi refining idiot? He didn't even pay attention to the nascent soul that was rapidly flying over like a bird startled by the twang of a bow. Daoist Jingrong really couldn't understand. This was because this one-chi divine cauldron was used to refine tools, and it was a life-bound magic treasure refined with his true life essence. It was connected to his primordial spirit. Not to mention that Xiaohua was a foundation establishment cultivator. Even a nascent soul cultivator wouldn't be able to receive it so easily. Even if a spirit-severing stage cultivator came to collect it, they would have to use a great deal of magic power. Without a rumbling sound like a mountain shaking sound, it was absolutely impossible to collect it. The most important thing was that Daoist Jing-Si only needed to think about it and the divine furnace would immediately fly back to Daoist Jing-Si's side. It was absolutely impossible for it to be taken away by others. And, even if it was taken away by someone else, Daoist Jing-Si still had a way to take it away from someone else's storage pouch. Just like how Her Highness's token was in Xiaohua's storage pouch that day, it could fly away at any time. But now, Daoist Jing-Si's life-bound magic treasure was unexpectedly taken away by a puny foundation establishment cultivator. Moreover, it was so easy to take it away without the slightest trace, just like a spring dream. Daoist Jing-Si couldn't sense the slightest trace of the one-chi divine furnace inside Xiaohua's storage pouch. You brat, if I don't capture you, pull out your tendons and skin you alive, grind your bones and scatter your ashes, and let you taste the pain of having your soul searched, my name is not Jingliang. Daoist Jing-Si stomped his feet in midair, stirring up all the magic power in his body to welcome his nascent soul and chase after Xiaohua. Unfortunately, although the magic power of a nascent soul cultivator was formidable, Xiaohua was currently several tens of li away. How could he hear his thunderous roar? Xiaohua, who had always been a thief, didn't leave empty-handed, at this time, withdrew his phoenix dharma body. Like Daoist Jing-Si, he once again stirred up his magic power and rushed forward. It had to be said that Xiaohua's method of stealing things in passing was wonderful. Daoist Jing-Si's nascent soul fled in panic, simply not caring about the one-chi divine furnace. Xiaohua's heaven and earth sleeve technique was an ancient magic technique. Although Xiaohua's cultivation was still shallow, it could still temporarily cut off the connection between the magic treasure and Daoist Jing Xi's primordial spirit. Of course, if Xiaohua was an ordinary cultivator, he would use magic power to put the magic treasure into his storage pouch. It would be tantamount to a baby moving a huge mountain. It would be almost impossible. But Xiaohua's method of putting the magic treasure into his space was his primordial spirit. The one-chi divine furnace only had a connection with the primordial spirit, there was no primordial spirit attached. And, even if there was a primordial spirit attached, in front of Xiaohua's powerful primordial spirit, it was no more than an ant. Therefore, Xiaohua very simply put the one-chi divine furnace into his space. The things inside the space were Xiaohua's personal belongings. Even a Mahayana cultivator wouldn't be able to take anything out of it. However, Xiaohua still lost the best opportunity to escape from Daoist Jing Xi's pursuit. This was because Daoist Jing Xi underestimated Xiaohua and rashly released his nascent soul. One must know that he was merely an early-stage nascent soul cultivator. His nascent soul hadn't completely solidified, and his magical power was limited. Moreover, he flew several tens of li away to kill Xiaohua. For an early-stage nascent soul cultivator, this was very dangerous. Otherwise, Daoist Jing Xi would have been frightened when Xiaohua took out the demonic tool just now. If Xiaohua had risked sacrificing half of his magic power and used the spiritual fire, with the might of the spiritual fire and Xiaohua's fire control technique, he would definitely be able to kill the nascent soul cultivator in one blow. How could Daoist Jing Xi, who had lost his nascent soul, still dare to chase after Xiaohua? Unfortunately, the opportunity was lost, and it couldn't come back. Xiaohua being able to escape from a nascent soul cultivator so calmly was already a legend. How could he possibly think of killing a nascent soul cultivator? Not only did Daoist Jing Xi's assassination attempt fail, but he also lost the one-chi divine furnace. What made Daoist Jing Xi angry the most was that he still hadn't shrunk the distance between him and Xiaohua. In fact, he had pulled the distance even further and was about to approach the limit of 100 li of spiritual sense. In the following 2 days, Daoist Jing Xi no longer had any distractions. He only urged his magic power and took medicinal pills, wholeheartedly chasing after Xiaohua. He wanted to get close and then use his methods to kill him. Soon, Daoist Jing Xi was only about 20 li away from Xiaohua. Daoist Jing Xi's eyes flashed with a trace of ruthlessness. He had been holding back for a long time. He slightly slowed down his flying speed and secretly formed hand seals, brewing a great spell. When he flew a little closer, he would use his thunderous methods. But right at this moment, the figure of Xiaohua who was flying within a stretch of dark green pine trees suddenly vanished. Ah! Daoist Jing Xi was stunned. His spiritual sense swept, but there was no trace of him. Moreover, because Xiaohua's whole body was surrounded by a layer of earth attribute spiritual energy, Daoist Jing Xi's spiritual sense didn't mark him. He couldn't rely on his spiritual sense mark to find Xiaohua. Why does this guy have so many strange spells? Daoist Jing Xi was helpless. He had no choice but to disperse the spell in his hand and use the secret technique. Fortunately, the secret technique was still effective. The cunning Xiaohua was actually within the range of Daoist Jing Xi's spiritual sense, but he had already changed direction and fled towards the north. Damn it! Daoist Jing Xi roared and chased in that direction. Because Daoist Jing Xi still had to rely on the secret technique to find Xiaohua's position, his flying speed inevitably slowed down. And Xiaohua, who was using the wood escape, was also pleasantly surprised. He also saw that the distance between the two people was getting closer and closer. He knew from his Buddhist sense that Daoist Jing-Si was brewing magic power, so he took the risk and gave it a try. He also didn't know whether or not he had a nascent soul cultivator's spiritual sense mark on his body, but since Daoist Jing-Si's speed had slowed down, that meant he had no choice but to find his trace. This would escape was effective. Of course, Xiaohua's would escape was still a bit slower than the thunder escape. However, it had the advantage of not leaving any trace. Daoist Jing-Si's spiritual sense couldn't see him, so he could calmly escape, especially when he was running all over the place. As a result, the distance between Xiaohua and Daoist Jing-Si increased again. A few days later, Xiaohua flew out from the other end of the forest. He swept with his Buddhist sense and was very satisfied. At this time, the distance between him and Daoist Jing-Si was just right for him to escape into the mountains. But at this time, Xiaohua's brows slightly wrinkled. His Buddhist sense saw that there was a lot of barren land at the edge of the nearby mountain forest, and there was some sparse rice planted on it. Xiaohua's eyes turned, and his figure flew up again. With a wave of his hand, fine rice seeds continuously flew out from the space and landed on the ground below him. These seeds couldn't all land in suitable rice fields. Some fell on rocks, some fell on trees, some fell in the water, and even more fell in the moist soil. Huh? This guy actually appeared. Sensing Xiaohua's appearance through his spiritual sense, Daoist Jing-Si was happy at first, but then he was astonished. He didn't understand what Xiaohua was doing. He thought he was laying down some magic array. However, those tiny things Xiaohua scattered didn't have a trace of magic power. Moreover, they were all over the ground. Even if he was laying down a magic array, he couldn't be so wasteful, right? When those farmers on the barren land discovered these fine seeds, they thought they were bestowed by the heavens and fell to the ground to kowtow. Only then did Daoist Jing-Si suddenly realize, damn it, isn't this the immortal rice seeds I obtained when I searched that farmer's soul? What is this Xiaohua doing? At this time, he's still doing these meaningless things. This is humiliating me. Daoist Jing-Si suddenly came to a realization, and his anger unconsciously soared to the sky. But Daoist Jing-Si was really at his wit's end at this time. He chased for nearly 2 months, not daring to be distracted. He just wanted to catch up and then attack, but this Xiaohua's strange methods always pulled the distance apart at the most dangerous time. Although Daoist Jing-Si flew a bit faster than Xiaohua, he couldn't stop himself from using Xiaohua's magic power. This won't do, I have to find a helper. Daoist Jing-Si suddenly had this thought, but it was immediately stifled. Yes, a nascent soul cultivator couldn't kill a foundation establishment cultivator, but he still needed to find a helper. If this helper was a core formation cultivator, he feared it wouldn't work. He had to be a nascent soul cultivator, but the favor of another nascent soul cultivator wasn't easy to accept. 2 nascent soul cultivators intercepting a foundation establishment cultivator, if this spread out, it would make others laugh their heads off. I must take back the flying magic tool. Daoist Jing-Si clapped his hands, and a 1,000-mile sound-transmitting talisman was sent out. He needed to take advantage of the fact that Xiaohua was still in Meng country to get the flying magic tool. If he left Meng country, even if someone delivered the magic tool, he feared he wouldn't be able to receive it. Chapter 2177. This old ghost is looking for a helper. Xiaohua was shocked. He instantly thought of the cultivator who sealed his Naiwen palace. Damn it, I'll risk it all. Before that person comes, I'll run as far as I can. The pitiful Xiaohua still didn't know the origin of Daoist Jing-Ru. His figure was still flying within Meng country. While planting rice seeds, he also urged his flying technique. Soon, more than half a year had passed and Xiaohua was running around in Meng country. The earth crystal yellow milk in his body was gradually refined and the yellow color on his body gradually faded away. Xiaohua knew that this nascent soul cultivator's social network was definitely wider than his. He must know a lot of cultivators. Moreover, the other party had already sent out a sound-transmitting talisman and was looking for people to find him. Therefore, Xiaohua didn't dare to go to places with many cultivators and only looked for remote and dangerous places to escape. Even when Xiaohua passed by Mo Zhao Black Forest, he thought of the secret area inside. However, the secret area was a natural restriction and he couldn't control the time when it was opened. If he rashly went in, he might be caught like a turtle in a jar and end up like the corpse he encountered at that time. Moreover, Mo Zhao was everywhere in Mo Zhao Black Forest and there were many dangers. Xiaohua didn't have absolute confidence that he could escape from the joint attack of Mo Zhao and the nascent soul cultivator. Today was a day of continuous rain. Xiaohua's body was surrounded by a faint brilliance, blocking all the rain outside of the brilliance. In the distance, Daoist Jingru had just used a secret technique to find the direction of Xiaohua. He was within 100 miles. After sweeping with his divine sense, he was suddenly shocked and secretly said, "Isn't this Xiaohua a Foundation Establishment cultivator?" The yellow heaven and earth spiritual qi outside his body has gradually faded away, but now he still has a protective brilliance. Isn't this a magical ability that only gold core cultivators have? Could it be that this guy is hiding his cultivation? Just as he was thinking, Daoist Jingru raised his eyebrows and became happy. His figure flew towards Xiaohua's right without hesitation. At this time, Xiaohua released his Buddhist sense to find traces of Daoist Jingru. Suddenly, almost parallel to Xiaohua's right hand, there was a flying magic tool flickering with brilliance approaching at an extremely fast speed. I understand. Xiaohua immediately understood. This nascent soul cultivator wasn't looking for any helpers. Instead, he asked someone to bring his own flying magic tool. Damn it, if I had known earlier. I wouldn't have strolled around Meng country. Why not just charge straight into the Mo Zhao Dark Forest? It's also better than being attacked from both sides. While thinking, Xiaohua clapped his hand and took out another drop of earth crystal yellow milk. Without hesitation, he slapped it on his own arm. Instantly, a thick layer of earthen yellow spirit energy of the heavens and the earth surged out from the surface of Xiaohua's body. At the same time, Xiaohua's meridians, body, and Phoenix Dharma body madly absorbed the earth element spirit energy once more. Xiaohua's comprehension of the celestial body bestowment technique was also very good now, and he was operating it to the limit. As Daoist Jingyu approached the flying magic tool, he sent out a sound-transmitting talisman. Once the flying magic tool received the sound-transmitting talisman, it immediately changed direction. Together with Daoist Jingyu, it flew towards Xiaohua in a pincer attack. How could Xiaohua let them succeed? He immediately changed his direction and flew towards the direction of the country of Xi. After flying for another half a day, the flying magic tool's speed was actually only similar to Daoist Jingyu's. It was not much faster, so how could it catch up with Xiaohua? Therefore, Daoist Jingyu had no choice but to get on the flying magic tool. On the flying magic tool was his disciple, Hu Guanju. Reporting to Master, disciple has brought the flying swallow. Hu Guanju had an indescribable expression on his face. He took out a storage pouch and said respectfully, "This is the medicinal pill that Master wants." In addition, disciple followed Master's sound transmission and came here by myself. I didn't tell anyone. Good. Daoist Jingyu didn't say much to him. He sat cross-legged on the flying swallow, stretched out his hand, and placed it on a bulge. Immediately, Daoist Jingyu's divine sense increased by 20%, and the flying speed also increased by 20%. You can go now. Daoist Jingyu saw Xiaohua with his divine sense. His heart relaxed, and he indifferently ordered Hu Guanju. Yes, disciple understands. Hu Guanju unexpectedly acted as if he didn't see anything. Without saying anything, he turned around and jumped off the flying swallow, heading in the direction of the Changbai sect. Humph, this old man wants to see. Daoist Jingyu coldly snorted. You've been flying for nearly a year, and you still haven't used up all your medicinal pills. Besides, this old man has a flying magic tool, and my speed is already much faster than yours. Moreover, my divine sense has also expanded. How can I not catch up with you? Oh. Xiaohua's body surface, how can there be so much spiritual energy of heaven and earth? Daoist Jingyu calmed his heart and looked. He was immediately surprised. What is this? It seems to be earth crystal milk. How can Xiaohua have such a strange thing? Previously, Xiaohua was urging the earth crystal milk in his body to turn black, so Daoist Jingyu didn't notice it. Now that Xiaohua was using the earth crystal milk, Daoist Jingyu was belatedly aware of the abnormality. But at this moment, a strange thing happened again. Xiaohua, who was in front of him, saw Daoist Jingyu's speed increase. He stretched out his hand, and a little ink-like thing was in his hand. He opened his mouth and swallowed it. What strange thing is this? At this time, Daoist Jingyu was already somewhat used to it. He only wanted to know what kind of effect this thing could bring to Xiaohua. Whoosh, with a sound, the earth-type spiritual energy of heaven and earth around Xiaohua's body seemed to have been ignited, and all of it began to roll. Xiaohua's body seemed to have been pierced by needles into millions of small dots, and a tiny vortex was set off. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth spiraled in. Does this guy want to fight to the death? Daoist Jingyu narrowed his eyes. He clearly understood in his heart that forcibly pouring in spiritual energy of heaven and earth was a great taboo for cultivators. Although it could increase one's magic power for a short period of time, the damage to one's physical body, meridians, and even one's Tao heart was too great. Unless it was absolutely necessary, no one would drink poison to quench their thirst. However, Xiaohua once again made Daoist Jingyu's eyeballs fall out. The thing that Daoist Jingyu was most worried about happened again. Xiaohua's flying speed unexpectedly increased again. There's no mistake, right? Daoist Jingyu almost jumped up on the flying swallow. He's as fast as an early nascent soul cultivator. This guy actually wants to surpass a nascent soul cultivator? Immediately, Daoist Jingyu clenched his teeth and took out a medicinal pill from a new storage pouch. He threw it into his mouth and said fiercely, "Good, since you want to play with this old man will play with you. Even if this old man can't catch up to you, I'll still force you to a dead end and make your cultivation unable to increase in this lifetime. I'll make you unable to fly, and when you stop, your meridians will burst, and your physical body will collapse and die." Alas, Daoist Jingyu himself probably hadn't thought of this at this time. What he was thinking now was not to personally kill Xiaohua, but to take a step back and force Xiaohua to take a medicinal pill and die. Chapter 2178. Unfortunately, Daoist Jingru, a nascent soul cultivator, had such a simple idea, and in the end, it wasn't realized. 2 years later, when Xiaohua bypassed Meng country, circled into Huan country, and finally rushed into Shi country. When he arrived in the vicinity of Imperial Thunder sect, Daoist Jingru still couldn't catch up. In the end, Xiaohua's bright thunder escape was forced to practice to the extreme, but he couldn't break through to the thunder eclipse stage. Because of this, Daoist Jingru was no longer able to steadily catch up with Xiaohua. Occasionally, he had to rely on secret techniques to find Xiaohua's whereabouts. In fact, Xiaohua couldn't be blamed for teasing Daoist Jingru, who was a nascent soul cultivator. Xiaohua had already been flying in a mess, so how could he know which direction was Imperial Thunder Sect? He could go from Meng country to Huan country, discover the wrong direction in time, and didn't rush into the sword cultivator's territory. Instead, he returned to Shi country in time, which made Daoist Jingru laugh his head off. Besides, our family Xiaohua is sowing seeds, and good deeds must be done along the way. Along the way, who knows how many rice seeds have been sowed, and who knows how many commoners have benefited from this. Seeing the familiar mountain range, which was the place where Xiaohua experienced the lightning tribulation for the first time with Sun Shu and the others, Xiaohua's heart settled. He had already used the last drop of earth crystal Yao milk, and there was still a lot of unrefined spiritual energy left in his meridians. Moreover, there were still many grains of earth crystal Yao milk left in his meridians. Although the massive amount of spiritual energy had been refined, raising his realm to the peak of the middle stage of foundation establishment. However, just as Daoist Jingru thought, if he flew for a while longer, even if Daoist Jingru didn't kill Xiaohua, Xiaohua's body and meridians would absolutely not be able to withstand the spiritual energy that couldn't be refined, and he would explode to death as Daoist Jingru predicted. Of course, now that he was already in Imperial Thunder Sect's territory, Xiaohua could naturally calm down, properly adjust his meridians, and stabilize his realm. Using a few years of effort to raise his cultivation level from the middle stage of foundation establishment to the peak stage was like forcing an infant boy to climb up a cliff. If he was not careful, he would be doomed eternally. Ha ha ha! Xiaohua suddenly stopped. His face flashed with an earthy yellow color. It was obvious that the spiritual aura in his body was surging. Xiaohua hurriedly operated his cultivation method to suppress it. He laughed loudly and fully operated his cultivation method. He transmitted his voice, "Senior nascent soul with deep feelings, thank you for escorting me all the way back to the Imperial Thunder Sect from the Guihe Sea. You even gave me a cauldron for refining weapons. This Xiao will never forget this kind of righteousness. Right now, this Xiao has already returned to the entrance of my Imperial Thunder Sect. This Xiao sincerely invites Senior to come to my Imperial Thunder Sect for a chat. This little one has delicious spirit wine to offer. I also want to have a drink with Senior and discuss with Senior about the wind, frost, snow, and rain along the way. Then, we should talk about life, love." Oh, wrong, those are for female cultivators. With a senior of such noble character and unquestionable integrity, we should talk about how to give away our magical treasures to others without making them feel grateful to us. This is a very difficult thing to do. And, in addition, if possible, I ask Senior to bestow me a name. This junior will definitely engrave it in my heart. In the future, if I see Senior's disciple or Senior's disciple, this junior will definitely give them a peach and repay them with a plum. And, since Senior is unwilling to return to the Imperial Thunder Sect with this Xiao, then this Xiao has no other choice. Xiaohua simply didn't care whether Daoist Jing Si could hear him or not. He continued, "This Xiao has no way to repay Senior's kindness. This low-grade spirit stone will be this Xiao's reward. I also ask Senior to not dislike it. As the saying goes, a goose feather sent from 1,000 miles away is light, but the feelings are more important. Senior's gift to this junior is not just 1,000 miles, this little one's spirit stone is also much more valuable than a goose feather. And, don't say, this junior has never given anyone a spirit stone before. Senior is the first." Ha ha ha! Xiaohua's Buddhist sense swept over. He had already seen Daoist Jing Si several dozen miles away. His nose was crooked from anger. He waved his hand and the low-grade spirit stone flew over. Soon after, he no longer cared about what was behind him and flew towards the Imperial Thunder Sect like a wisp of smoke. Puff! Daoist Jing-si spat out a mouthful of blood on the flying swallow. At this time, Xiaohua's magic power was truly profound. Daoist Jing-si was also on top of the magic tool, so he had already heard these words. He had exhausted all the spirit pills in his storage pouch and exhausted all the magic power in his body, but unexpectedly, he couldn't even touch a single hair on Xiaohua's head. How could he not be angry? His heart was originally filled with anger. Being lured by Xiaohua like this, he immediately vomited blood. However, not to mention that he couldn't catch up to Xiaohua now. Even if he could, the Imperial Thunder Sect's territory was in front of him. If he rashly entered, not only would the matter of him chasing Xiaohua be exposed, he would also provoke some trouble by coming to the Imperial Thunder Sect for no reason. He had no choice but to stop. At the same time Daoist Jing-si stopped, he immediately urged his primordial spirit to sense his life source magic treasure. Unfortunately, it was the same as the countless times he had sensed it in the past 2 years. That one gasification divine furnace seemed to not exist. There wasn't any movement. This brat is bullying me too much. Not only did he take this old man's magic treasure, he even used words to despise this old man. Daoist Jing-si shouted loudly. He stood up and hatefully stamped his foot. Soon after, his eyes flashed with a trace of severity. Humph, don't look at how you're somewhat well off now. You know your own situation. Previously, your face had a faint yellow brilliance. Wasn't that because too much spiritual energy had been deposited in your body? Even if you return to the Imperial Thunder Sect and ask Daoist Thunder Meng to take action and stabilize your realm, what about yourself? Your cultivation, can you still take another step forward? In the end, other people's stable realms aren't your own. Ha ha ha, Daoist Jing-si spat out a mouthful of congested blood. He also felt a lot more carefree. He laughed a few times, patted the flying swallow, turned around, and left. As for Xiaohua, who had executed the bright thunder escape art to the extreme, his heart was also perturbed. After all, this lightning escape art was something that even Reverend Lei Tan did not cultivate. How could his execution of this art not attract attention? But under Daoist Jing-si's coercion, he still prioritized preserving his life. When Xiaohua saw that Daoist Jing-si had unexpectedly stopped in midair, his heart was overjoyed. He immediately reduced his flying speed and changed to an ordinary flying technique. He slowly moved forward. Of course, he was moving. Just a moment ago, he was still a rabbit, but now he was a tortoise. Xiaohua didn't hear Daoist Jing-si's words. Currently, Daoist Jing-si's magic power consumption was enormous. He was unwilling to spend energy in this aspect. After all, he still had to return to Meng with his tail between his legs. Damn it, I finally got rid of this guy. Xiaohua let out a long sigh of relief. He felt uncomfortable all over. Not only was his physical body sore, there was also a dull pain in his meridians, and even extreme mental exhaustion. Xiaohua's physical body had been tempered by the lightning tribulation, Xiaohua's meridians were operated by the dragon transformation art, and Xiaohua also cultivated secret techniques such as the celestial body bestowment technique. Although Xiaohua had too many, yes, he had used up 2 drops of earth crystal yum milk within 2 years. This half-drop of earth crystal yum milk could temper the physical body of a late gold core stage cultivator, allowing them to rely on this physical body to step into the nascent soul stage. Xiaohua had actually used 3 times as much. He was a foundation establishment cultivator. And, even if his cultivation was comparable to the middle gold core stage, he still couldn't bear it. I was chased for thousands of miles and forced for 2 years, but in the end, I still don't know who this guy is. After escaping from death, Xiaohua was still somewhat gnashing his teeth. In his heart, he understood that in the end, his flying technique had already surpassed the nascent soul cultivator's magic tool. He could have escaped earlier, but he also wanted to see if he could find a flaw in the other party's technique. He wanted to see if he could find out the other party's background, so that he could know the origin of his enemy. From there, he could find out why he came to the Dawn Rain continent from the 10,000 demon realm. Forget it. Since I know the appearance of the person who came, there are only so many nascent soul stage cultivators on the Dawn Rain continent. I can always find out who the person who sealed me is. Xiaohua thought hatefully, but, if that enemy is too powerful, I don't know if my Imperial Thunder sect can come out for me. His divine sense swept across the road that he had flown before, and a trace of homesickness suddenly appeared in the bottom of Xiaohua's heart. It was as if he was a wanderer returning home, and when he came close, he felt a kind of attachment, a kind of security, a kind of peace, and a kind of expectation. This was a feeling that Xiaohua had never felt before. Maybe I'm old. Xiaohua touched his nose and secretly laughed. It said that only the old will be nostalgic. In the past, I didn't have much of a sense of belonging to the Imperial Thunder sect, but now I actually think so much. It's good to have a sect. Not only do you have cultivation methods and pills, even if someone is chasing you, you have a harbor to hide in, and a place to escape to. So many disciples of cultivation families and rogue cultivators want to join a cultivation sect. This is probably a more important reason. Oh right. I don't know if Shui is back yet. Xiaohua was a little emotional, and immediately thought of Shui. He hurriedly clapped his hands, took out a 1,000-mile sound-transmitting talisman, and threw it in the air with his magic power. Ah, great! Seeing that the red-yellow talisman didn't fly elsewhere, but directly flew to the Imperial Thunder sect, Xiaohua was overjoyed, knowing that Shui had returned safely. Xiaohua flew to the Sky Thunder Peak while waiting for Xiaohua's response, or Shui's warm welcome. However, before Xiaohua could see Shui, he saw a group of qi refining disciples flying over. How come there are disciples traveling again? Xiaohua thought to himself, but then he changed his mind and laughed inwardly. Of course, I've been gone for nearly 10 years. Isn't today the Foundation establishment experiential learning for qi refining disciples? Greetings, Martial Uncle. When the several disciples in front saw Xiaohua, they didn't care whether Xiaohua was a disciple of the Imperial Thunder sect, and hurriedly bowed to pay their respects. And you all are going to Foundation establishment experiential learning? Xiaohua said with a smile. Yes, Martial Uncle knows, we juniors are going to look for an opportunity to Foundation establishment. The quick-witted disciples hurriedly replied, I don't know if Martial Uncle has any instructions, please give us some pointers. Chapter 2179. Xiaohua smiled and waved his hand, saying, everyone has their own fate, others can't use it as a reference. However, if you wholeheartedly follow the Tao, treat others with compassion, and cultivate with sincerity, the heavens will certainly take care of you. Yes, we understand. The several disciples were confused, and some even showed disdain on their faces. Xiaohua understood that he was still concealing his cultivation level to the early stage of the Foundation establishment realm, and his appearance was so young. In other people's eyes, wasn't he just lucky enough to enter the Foundation establishment realm? Admittedly, this was what Xiaohua really said, but in other people's ears, most of them were perfunctory, and a few were showing off, right? Xiaohua didn't say much. He flew up and smiled at the disciples who came out to gain experience. There were so many aura refining disciples who went out to gain experience, and many of them came back. But what about those who entered the Foundation establishment realm? How many could there be? Among the oncoming qi refining disciples, Xiaohua actually saw a few familiar faces, but when he thought about it carefully, he couldn't remember them clearly. However, when he saw these disciples evade him and fly away, Xiaohua already understood that they should be fellow disciples who had joined the Imperial Thunder sect with him, or he had met them when he went out to gain experience in the past. Alas, Xiaohua sighed. He knew what they were thinking, so he pretended he didn't see them and flew directly to Sky Thunder Peak. Unexpectedly, when he arrived at Sky Thunder Peak, it was even more lively. He saw a thunderboat stopped in mid-air, and a gold core cultivator stood at the bow of the boat with his hands clasped behind his back, looking into the distance. Under the thunderboat, there were dozens of disciples and a few masters of different cultivation levels clustered around. Feather Immortal Assembly. Xiaohua smiled. Another Feather Immortal Assembly, I wonder who will win this year. Hongxia Fairy, how are you doing in the Huanhua sect? For no reason, Xiaohua's heart was suddenly drowned by longing. That longing was even vaster and more boundless than the water of the Guihe Sea. Xiaohua. You've also entered the Foundation establishment realm. A very shocked voice came from not far away. Xiaohua's longing was interrupted by this sudden voice, and he raised his eyebrows absent-mindedly. He saw a middle-stage Foundation establishment cultivator flying over with a 12th-layer aura refining disciple. This voice came from that middle-stage Foundation establishment cultivator. Enemies are really destined to meet. This young master had just returned to the Imperial Thunder sect and ran into this guy. When Xiaohua saw that cultivator, he couldn't help but be overjoyed in his heart. This cultivator was none other than Zhen Weixing of Swallow Thunder Ridge. Greetings, Senior Brother Zhen. Xiaohua wasn't polite either. He cupped his hands and called Zhen Weixing Senior Martial Brother, saying, Little brother hasn't done anything outrageous, so why can't I build my foundation? Is it strange for Senior Brother Zhen to see me build my foundation? Oh, right, where's my Junior Martial Brother Yan? What about Junior Brother now? Or Martial Nephew? The astonishment on Zhen Weixing's face disappeared as he said coldly, Even in my Thunder Manipulation sect, it's extremely rare to reach Foundation establishment in a few decades. You have nothing to be proud of. Let this old man tell you this as your senior brother. Modesty makes one improve, while pride makes one fall behind. Pfft. Xiaohua almost fell from the sky. He smiled and said, Many thanks for Senior Brother Zhen's pointers. My master told little brother several decades ago that Senior Brother doesn't need to worry. However, it seems that Martial Nephew Yan hasn't built his foundation yet, so Senior Brother should say these words to encourage him. Oh, right, this is also Senior Brother's disciple, right? Are you going to participate in the Feather Immortal Assembly? Zhen Weixing's face was gloomy when Xiaohua mentioned Yan Xiefeng again. Yan Xiefeng was quite famous in the Feather Immortal Assembly back then. After returning, he excitedly confronted Xiaohua, wanting to destroy Myriad Thunder Valley's face. Who knew that he would be beaten up like a punching bag by Xiaohua? This probably left an inner demon in his heart. It had been 10 years, but he still didn't show any signs of building his foundation. This also left a regret in Zhen Weixing's heart. Xiaohua poked his sore spot again and again, so how could he not be ashamed and angry? Junior Shuqing greets Martial Uncle. The 12th layer Qi refinement disciple didn't know the grudge between Xiaohua and Swallow Thunder Ridge. When Xiaohua mentioned him, he hurriedly stepped forward and bowed. And this is Myriad Thunder Valley Xiaohua, also your Thunder Manipulation Palace's Martial Uncle. Zhen Weixing pointed his hand and said, he also participated in the Feather Immortal Assembly back then with the cultivation of the 11th layer Qi refinement. Ah. Xiaohua. Martial Uncle Xiao. Shuqing had obviously heard of Xiaohua's name, and her face immediately showed astonishment. It's that Xiaohua. Zhen Weixing said disdainfully. When he participated in the Feather Immortal Assembly back then, he made my thunder manipulation sect lose face. A female cultivator from the Washing Flowers sect betrayed us on the spot. However, don't learn from him. He couldn't build his foundation for dozens of years, and in the end, who knows what kind of opportunity he encountered to reach this step. If you can't build your foundation for dozens of years, you'll make me lose face. I'll slap you to death. Yes, disciple understands. Xiuqing naturally didn't dare to say more. She smiled embarrassedly at Xiao Hua and bowed to Zhen Weixing. Let's go. Zhen Weixing didn't pay attention to Xiao Hua anymore. He waved his hand and said, he's already on the thunderboat, don't waste time here. After saying that, Zhen Weixing ignored Xiao Hua and flew away first. Xiuqing cupped her hands towards Xiao Hua again and activated the yellow talisman. Hee, this disciple called Xiuqing looks pretty good. Don't learn bad things from Zhen Weixing. Xiao Hua smiled and said in his heart, I don't want to kill any more disciples of the Thunder Manipulation sect. Then Xiao Hua looked at the disciples on and off the thunderboat. He didn't see anyone he was familiar with, so he didn't care. He stood up and flew towards the myriad Thunder Valley. But what he didn't know was that when he flew far away, the middle gold core stage cultivator standing on the thunderboat looked at Xiao Hua's back and frowned. Xiao Hua, this guy is still alive. He actually built his foundation. This is really troublesome. This favor. I have to find a way to return it. Flying close to the myriad Thunder Valley, bursts of silent thunder rushed into Xiao Hua's ears. Just when Xiao Hua wanted to use the secret technique to avoid thunder, he felt the spiritual aura in his meridians and even in his body suddenly jump, as if it was somewhat out of control. However, before he could use the mental cultivation method in his shock, the spiritual aura flowed extremely slowly, as if it was about to be refined. Xiao Hua suddenly woke up, and he was overjoyed. The reason why the spiritual aura was deposited was because the mental cultivation method wasn't good enough. But when the mental cultivation method was used again, new spiritual aura would enter, and this spiritual aura couldn't be refined. Over time, it would be deposited. When the mental cultivation method was used again to refine the spiritual aura, this spiritual aura would have already entered the depths of the meridians or the minor branches of the body. The mental cultivation method was already powerless. Of course, Xiao Hua didn't have the opportunity to refine the spiritual aura in detail, but his thoughts were the same as Daoist Jing Ru's. He didn't have much confidence in his heart, but when he saw the effect of the silent thunder, Xiao Hua thought of the feeling in his body when he shattered that huge meteor in the huge stone formation. Chapter 2180. Could it be that this silent thunder is also useful for the heavenly infusion technique or the bone tempering technique? Xiao Hua guessed. But then, Xiao Hua frowned. He was about to reach the myriad Thunder Valley, but Shueishue's communication talisman hadn't arrived. He didn't know why. Although he knew that Shueishue was safe and sound, Xiao Hua still wanted to see her with his own eyes. Which fellow Daoist came to my myriad Thunder Valley? While Xiao Hua was thinking, a foundation establishment cultivator's divine sense swept over from afar, and a voice familiar to Xiao Hua was heard. Cui Hongshan. Xiao Hua stopped in midair with a faintly discernible smile on his face. So it's you. Cui Hongshan's divine sense swept over Xiao Hua, and he immediately recognized him. His tone carried a trace of astonishment, and a trace of surprise that almost couldn't be felt, pleasant surprise. You were actually able to escape from the hands of Daoist Jing Ru. Cui Hongshan's second sentence made Xiao Hua even more astonished. Daoist Jing Ru. Xiao Hua was stunned. But then, his mind turned quickly, and he immediately understood what was going on. He couldn't help but feel a burst of warmth in his heart. Shue Shue, you are really my wife. Who is Daoist Jingru? Xiaohua raised his eyebrows. Strange. Cui Hongshan flew closer, looked up and down at Xiaohua, and said indifferently, Shue Shue rushed back to the Imperial Thunder sect 2 years ago, and first came to my myriad Thunder Valley, saying that you were being chased by a nascent soul cultivator, and wanted us to save you. But, you also know that Master is only at the late stage of Foundation establishment. How could he dare to provoke a nascent soul cultivator? So, he took Shue Shue to the Thunder Palace to see Daoist Lei Meng. When Shue Shue described the appearance of the nascent soul cultivator, Daoist Lei Meng knew that it was Changbai Sect's Daoist Jingru. So, we naturally knew that this was the trouble you caused at the Feather Immortal Assembly. Cui Hongshan said coldly, since you know how your body is, don't provoke some people you can't afford to provoke. Otherwise, not only will you lose your life, you will also provoke others to suffer. From his tone, it was obviously an elder reprimanding a junior. There's no need for fellow Daoist Cui to worry. Xiaohua cupped his hands and said indifferently. He didn't say another word. I naturally won't worry about it. Everything will be decided by Master. Cui Hongshan didn't say much. He clapped his hands, took out the messaging talisman, and said a few words. Then, he raised his hand and sent it out. He then said, I'm patrolling the Myriad Thunder Valley today, so I won't take you back. Master is in the cave residence today. Got it. Xiaohua didn't wait for Cui Hongshan to finish speaking. With a flick of his sleeves, he grew taller than Cui Hongshan by half a figure. Then, he swept past Cui Hongshan and flew towards the Immortal's cave in the Myriad Thunder Valley. However, before he could fly for half an hour, a communication talisman flew back and landed in the hands of Cui Hongshan, whose face was slightly pale. Cui Hongshan took the communication talisman and looked at it. A trace of helplessness appeared on his face. Then, he flew up and followed Xiaohua to the Immortal's cave. Before he could fly to the Immortal's cave, the Immortal's divine sense swept over. However, it only swept over Xiaohua's body for a moment before withdrawing. It didn't stay for too long. Meanwhile, Zhuo Minghui's figure was already standing outside the Immortal's cave. When Xiaohua saw his master's wife, his nose turned sour for no reason. An inexplicable sadness welled up in his heart. Xiaohua landed early without leaving a trace. He quickly ran in front of Zhuo Minghui and bowed. Disciple really can't bear the burden of troubling Master's nascent soul. You child. Although Zhuo Minghui had already seen Xiaohua, she still looked him up and down for a long time. Then, she stretched out her hand and touched Xiaohua's hair. She said lovingly, it's really hard for you to become a disciple of your master. Although this sentence didn't have much explanation, it was really better than a million sentences. Xiaohua's previous unhappiness because of Cui Hongshan immediately disappeared. I don't dare. It's all because disciple is too naughty and has caused trouble for master. He bowed again and said very sincerely. It's not naughty at all. At this time, Cui Hongshan also stepped forward to greet Zhuo Minghui. When Zhuo Minghui saw Cui Hongshan's appearance, she obviously already knew that he had suffered in front of Xiaohua. She smiled and said, your eldest senior brother is too slow. Hongshan is also a man of the rules. If it weren't for a naughty disciple like you, master's wife would be really boring. Disciple understands. Disciple will do his best to learn from eldest senior brother. Xiaohua said hurriedly. Hearing that Xiaohua still didn't mention Cui Hongshan, Zhuo Minghui smiled bitterly. However, she stretched out her hand and pulled Xiaohua. Let's go, let's enter the Immortal's cave first. These past 2 years, your master has been worried about you. However, you also know that Daoist Jing Ru is a nascent soul cultivator. Even Daoist Lei Meng isn't willing to easily offend him. The news that Xue Xue brought back was without any evidence. You also didn't have any verbal message or evidence to take back to the sect. Therefore, Master's wife, hasn't disciple returned safely? Don't mention the past. Xiao Hua stopped Xue Minghui from continuing and said with a smile, everything is a misunderstanding. And, disciple will carefully report to Master when I see him. Good. Xue Minghui beamed with joy. Everything was fake. As long as Xiao Hua returned safely, that was what she cared about the most. Xiao Hua was pulled into the Immortal's cave by Xue Minghui. However, he saw that everything in the Immortal's cave was the same as before. Even the helpless expression on his face was the same as before. And, he still hated iron for not becoming steel. Disciple greets Master. Xiao Hua faintly felt that something was wrong. He hurriedly stepped forward and bowed. What? You've finally built your foundation. She said faintly and helplessly. When your eldest senior brother came back, he said that you've already built your foundation. It's already been 10 years. How come you're still at the early stage of foundation establishment? Your cultivation and realm also haven't improved. Look at Xue Xue. Although she went out with you and even built her foundation later than you, look at her cultivation. It's practically similar to your senior brother Chui's. How did you cultivate? Did you cultivate a dog's body? You're really embarrassing me. Xiao Hua sighed in his heart. He just knew that Wu would say this. It was also because he knew that Wu would say this that Xiao Hua specially maintained his newly built foundation cultivation. In the end, he wanted to see if Wu would say this. Sweat, isn't this a bit of reverse psychology? Cough cough. Xue Minghui seized the opportunity to cough twice, interrupting Wu's words. She glanced at the embarrassed Xiao Hua and rebuked, Husband, you can't say that. Although Xiao Hua's cultivation hasn't improved, that's because his foundation is weak. However, didn't you hear what Xiang Yang said? Xiang Yang and Qing Lian were both saved by him. Moreover, that thing was also obtained by Xiao Hua. Old man, you also benefited a lot from it. In these 2 years, you've also racked your brains to find someone to help you. Now that you're here, you're blaming the child. What nonsense are you saying? Wu glared at Xue Minghui in annoyance and said, This kind of disciple that makes me lose face, I can't wait for him to not return. Those were all words that Xiang Yang made up and specially placed on Xiao Hua. He just built his foundation, how could he save 2 people? You even believe these words? Xue Minghui covered her mouth and laughed, since that's the case, last year when my Imperial Thunder sect was recruiting disciples again, why didn't you go? That's because Myriad Thunder Valley was busy with official business, I didn't have time. Wu curled his lips even more, if I were to look again, I definitely wouldn't find another disciple like this guy. Xue Minghui didn't say anything more to Wu. She glanced at Xiao Hua and said, Xiao Hua, sit down and wait for a moment. Today is the day that Li He returns to the valley. Your eldest senior brother has already gone to pick him up and will be back soon. Yes, disciple understands. When Xiao Hua heard Xiang Zhili mentioned, he immediately thought of the baby that was born 10 years ago. He couldn't help but smile and wanted to take a seat. However, at this time, Xue Minghui was sitting on Wu Hai's left, while Cui Hongshan sat on the right, which happened to be the second chair. Xiao Hua naturally couldn't sit on top of him, but he also didn't want to sit below him. Xiao Hua hesitated for a moment, then walked over to Xue Minghui's side and picked up the last chair to sit on. Seeing Xiao Hua like this, Wu Hai was somewhat angry and scolded, This little bastard, husband. Xue Minghui said with a smile, Xiao Hua hasn't seen me for a long time, so he wants to be intimate with me. Look at you. Humph, Wu Hai snorted coldly and didn't say anything else. After a moment, the sound of footsteps came from outside the cave, and a sweet voice sounded, Martial Ancestor, I'm back, I'm back. Following a series of chaotic noises, a young boy dressed like a piece of jade bounced into the cave dwelling. When he heard the boy's voice, Wu Hai's gloomy face, which was like rain, immediately cleared up after the rain. It was really like the saying, the sky is clear and bright. If it wasn't for his status, he would have stood up long ago. The boy ran in very habitually, and his eyes had already swept across the entire cave. His gaze immediately landed on Xiaohua, a stranger. However, this unfamiliarity only lasted for a moment. Then, a fervent light flashed in his eyes. Of course, the boy only looked at Xiaohua before immediately retracting his gaze. He walked in front of Wu Hai and respectfully bowed. Li He greets Martial Ancestor. I haven't seen Martial Ancestor for more than a month. I wonder if Martial Ancestor is well. Ha ha ha. I'm well. Wu Hai said with a smile. I wonder if Li He has made any progress in this month. Good boy, this is Xiang Jili. Xiaohua knew that this was Xiang Jili, but when he saw that this boy, who was almost 10 years old, actually had the cultivation of the 7th layer of qi refining, he was still shocked in his heart. Damn it, there's really no way to compare. Back then, I didn't know how much effort I spent to cultivate to the 7th layer. This guy is just 10 years old, and he's already at the 7th layer. Li He is very obedient, he can already refine yellow talismans. As Xiang Jili spoke, he patted his hand and took out a fireball talisman from the small storage pouch at his waist. Under the urging of magic power, a large fireball was born, and the surrounding spiritual energy of heaven and earth swarmed in. It was actually a high-grade fireball talisman. Chapter 2181. Ha ha ha, very good, very good. With a helpless flick of her sleeve, she covered the fireball and laughed. With a disciple like Xiang Jili in my 10,000 Thunder Valley, who would dare to look down on my 10,000 Thunder Valley? Li He greets Martial Grandmother. Xiang Jili obediently bowed to Zhuo Minghui. Get up. Zhuo Minghui smiled and said, Where are your parents? Father and mother returned to the cave first. Xiang Jili answered with a smile. Boy listened to their discussion and prepared for the second. Martial Uncle Chui's dual cultivation ceremony in 3 years, and then came over immediately. Hee, you're really the eldest martial brother. Zhuo Minghui glanced at Cui Hongshan, her words seeming to have a double meaning, dual cultivation ceremony. Xiaohua suddenly understood and thought of Dui Qimeng, who he saw before he went out to train. Sweat, this guy hasn't dual cultivated yet. How many years has it been? Xiaohua suddenly realized. This guy already reported to master that he wants to dual cultivate. Doesn't that mean this young master has to postpone it? Damn it, this guy still wants to block this young master's happiness even now. When Cui Hongshan heard this, his face turned slightly red. Li He greets Martial Uncle. Xiang Jili walked in front of Cui Hongshan and bowed. Good, Cui Hongshan waved his hand and said, My good Li He, I haven't seen you for a month, and your cultivation has improved greatly. Foundation establishment is just around the corner. You flatter me, I don't dare to compare myself to Martial Uncle. Xiang Jili said very modestly. When Xiang Jili stood up, Zhuo Minghui was about to tell him about Xiaohua, but who would have thought that Xiang Jili would run in front of Xiaohua? He didn't need to be introduced at all, and even exceeded everyone's expectations. With a plop, he knelt on the ground and kowtowed. Li He greets Martial Uncle. Ah. Not only was Xiaohua stunned, but he also opened his mouth in shock and even raised his hand in a daze. A trace of understanding flashed through Zhuo Minghui's eyes, and the corners of her mouth turned up into a smile. Cui Hongshan, on the other hand, was frowning slightly. There was an indescribable feeling in his heart. He knew very well that Xiang Zhili had been born with a heavenly lightning constitution and was the first disciple of the third generation of the Myriad Thunder Valley. He had doted on him since he was young and had given him countless benefits, but he had never seen Xiang Zhili treat him like this. And what about Xiaohua? This seemed to be Xiang Zhili's first time seeing it. Before anyone could introduce him, Xiang Zhili had already identified Xiaohua. Needless to say, behind his back, Xiang Yang and Yan Qinglian had said this countless times in front of Xiang Zhili, and even more so, they had warned him countless times. Xiaohua. Is he really worth bowing to? Cui Hongshan couldn't help but secretly ask. Sure enough, before Cui Hongshan could think of anything, Xiang Zhili opened his mouth and said, "Uncle, you don't need to be surprised. When the boy was young, my father had already told the boy that the lives of my father, mother, and boy were all saved by uncle. If not for uncle's strength, there would be no boy in this world. My father had already told uncle's appearance clearly and said that uncle's appearance wouldn't change even after 10,000 years. He had repeatedly told the boy that as long as he saw uncle, he must kowtow 9 times. As he spoke, Xiang Zhili slammed his forehead on the ground of the cave abode with a loud bang. This. Xiaohua panicked and raised his hand slightly to stop Xiang Zhili. He looked at Xiang Zhili in embarrassment. And, since it's the heart of a child, don't block it. Xiang Zhili originally wanted to say something, but when he saw Zhuo Minghui glare at him, he went with the flow and said, "Oh. Okay." Xiaohua said helplessly. However, after Xiang Zhili finished kowtowing 9 times, he stood up and said, "Moreover, my father also said that the boy should acknowledge uncle as his adoptive father. Since uncle wants the boy to kowtow, then in the future, the boy will call uncle as his adoptive father." Ah. When Xiaohua heard this, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He was very clear in his heart that this definitely wasn't his honest senior brother's idea. Perhaps it was Yan Qinglian or even Xiang Zhili's own idea. If it was any other disciple who used such a cunning method, Xiaohua would definitely look down on it and wouldn't even hesitate to reject it. However, this was a child of his own Myriad Thunder Valley. No matter how he looked at it, this child was intelligent. Xiaohua didn't have any thoughts of rejecting it. In fact, he was even happy for his senior brother. Just as Xiaohua was hesitating, the sound of footsteps came from outside the cave. Xiang Yang and Yan Qinglian walked in. Before they even took a few steps, their eyes immediately lit up and they shouted, "Little junior brother, you! When did you come back? Shue Shue said that you would definitely come back. I was worried to death. I didn't think that, you really came back." Xiang Yang also didn't care about Xiang Zhili and bowed. He took a few steps forward and hugged Xiaohua in his arms. He patted Xiaohua's thin shoulders with all his strength. Xiaohua's heart was also warm. He knew that if it wasn't for Xiang Yang being too surprised to see him, he definitely wouldn't have not greeted Xiang Yang first. "Thank you for your concern, senior brother. Little brother also just came back." Xiaohua also patted Xiang Yang's back and said in a low voice, Good, it's good that you're back." Xiang Yang said. He turned around and looked at Xiang Zhili and scolded, "What did father teach you? Now that your uncle is in front of you, hurry up and kowtow." Looking at Xiang Yang's helpless face, Xiaohua was speechless. Xiang Zhili stuck out his tongue and said respectfully, "I'll let father know." Boy has already paid his respects to uncle. Moreover, uncle has already agreed to be boy's adoptive father. What? Adoptive father? Xiangyang was stunned. Yes, uncle is too polite. Didn't father say that adoptive father is closer? Xiangjili blinked his eyes at Xiangyang and said very innocently, boy was thinking that adoptive father worked so hard to save boy's family. Boy will wait until boy's cultivation is successful in the future and he will properly protect father, mother, and adoptive father. You little brat, what are you trying to do with your foster father? Xiangyang glared at Xiangjili in exasperation. Alright, Xiaohua smiled. Since Xiangyang had already put this adoptive father in his mouth, what else could he say? He clapped his hands as if to take out something, but then he hesitated and said with a smile, since the child has already kowtowed, I can't let the child kowtow for nothing. Little brother will accept this adoptive father. Although Yan Qinglian didn't step forward, her eyes were filled with anticipation. When she heard Xiaohua's words, her eyes flashed with a strange light. She hurriedly bowed and said, your adoptive father has already nodded. Hurry up and pay your respects. Boy greets adoptive father. This time, Xiangjili didn't kowtow. Instead, he bowed respectfully, just like a little adult. Get up. Xiaohua only reached out to help him up, and said, you can't kowtow for nothing, but adoptive father doesn't have anything good to give you. Wait a moment, let adoptive father think carefully, and see what good things I can give you. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Calm to vote for it. Chapter 2182. Hee, I don't need anything. As long as I can call you adoptive father, I'll be able to stay by your side and receive your guidance. Xiangjili acted like an adult and hurriedly waved his hand with a smile. Martial uncle and martial ancestor have already given boy many good things. Boy can't even use them. That's right. Xiangyang immediately stood in front of Xiangjili and smiled. The child is still young. Let's talk about it later. Don't. Xiaohua wouldn't let that happen. He grabbed Xiangjili, and with a flash of light, a defensive artifact appeared on his body. Ignoring Xiangyang, he handed it to Xiangjili and said, you've already called me adoptive father. If I don't give you anything, people will say I'm stingy. As he spoke, he didn't forget to glance at Cui Hongshan. Cui Hongshan's expression was very unsightly. Was there even a need to say it? Was he trying to compete with him? He could only give Xiangjili some small trinkets. As for artifacts, he didn't even have ordinary artifacts, let alone defensive artifacts. How could he give it to others? Helplessly, he could only give Xiangjili some magic tools. However, when he saw that Xiaohua had actually given his own magic tool to Xiangjili, he felt happy in his heart. He felt that Xiaohua had finally understood some things, and he couldn't help but reveal a faint smile. Although Xiangjili's eyes flashed with surprise, he still waved his hand and said, adoptive father, this is your defensive artifact. Boy, how can I accept it? You still have to travel the Xiaoyu continent. Take it. Xiaohua glared at him and pretended to be angry. If you don't take it, I won't let you call me adoptive father. Alright, Li take it. Xiangyang said helplessly to Xiangjili. Your adoptive father's artifact isn't a defensive artifact. It's an artifact. You have to cultivate properly and strive to be able to use this artifact as soon as possible. Your adoptive father gave you this artifact to urge you to cultivate. Seeing Xiangyang constantly implicating cultivation, Xiaohua was speechless. He didn't want to urge Xiangjili to cultivate. He really didn't have anything suitable to give Xiangjili. Everything in his space was shocking and couldn't be casually exposed. A defensive artifact. This is extremely rare. Xiang Zhili was also a disciple of a famous teacher, so he knew how precious defensive treasures were. He took it with great fondness. Looking at Xiang Zhili's joy, he felt helpless but also happy. In front of Xiao Hua, an extremely rare smile appeared on his face. He waved his hand and said, "All right, Lear." Acknowledging Xiao Hua as his adoptive father is a good thing. My 10,000 Thunder Valley hasn't had any happy events for a long time. First, the date of Hongshan's dual cultivation is about to be set. Now that Xiao Hua has returned, we should take advantage of this opportunity to liven things up. Xiang Yang, discuss a date with Qing Lian and hold a ceremony to let Li acknowledge Xiao Hua as his adoptive father. Also, let your master's close disciples come and pay their respects. Yes, I understand. Xiang Yang was naturally happy. That day, he had wanted Xiang Zhili to acknowledge Xiao Hua as his master, but he hadn't expected to be rejected by Xiao Hua so quickly. This foster father was naturally closer to Xiang Zhili than a master. Although Xiao Hua wouldn't teach Xiang Zhili anything, he could at least protect Xiang Zhili. No one knew Xiao Hua's strength better than Xiang Yang. Of course, this strength was already equivalent to Xiao Hua's early-stage foundation establishment cultivation. Hee, master's wife, let's liven things up ourselves. Why do we need to find other people? Xiao Hua didn't like liveliness and said with a smile. There's no need to mention other people. Not long after I parted ways with Xue Xue and the Heavenly Sea, I was captured by Master Jing Si. However, he didn't tell me who he was. He took me. Soon after, Xiao Hua fabricated the story of him being captured by Master Jing Si and then being punished. Of course, Xiao Hua didn't know any of these details. After all, he was imprisoned by Master Jing Si. Oh. You're saying Master Jing Si, who has always been extremely protective of his own, actually let you go after a slight punishment? Xiang Yang didn't quite believe it. After he knew it was Master Jing Si who made a move and then inquired about that guy's character, he had long regarded Xiao Hua as extremely dangerous, so much so that he was already dead. However, whether Xiang Yang believed it or not wasn't important. What was important was that Xiao Hua also said innocently, "Yes, I also don't know why." Before I returned to the Imperial Thunder Sect, I simply didn't know who Master Jing Si was. I also didn't know what this nascent soul cultivator was doing. What could Xiang Yang say? Could it be that he blamed Master Jing Si for not killing Xiao Hua? And when I saw Xiao Hua, I mentioned Master Jing Si's name to him. It seems he also didn't know. Cui Hongshan also said. I'm afraid Xiao Hua really didn't know that person was Master Jing Si. And, perhaps because Xiao Hua's cultivation was too shallow, Master Jing Si was really embarrassed to make a move. Zhuo Minghui also frowned and said, even us late-stage foundation establishment cultivators or golden core cultivators are embarrassed to make a move against an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator. He, a nascent soul senior, was also afraid of being talked about and losing face. And, I can only think like that. Xiang Yang helplessly glared at Xiao Hua and said, I didn't expect that your low cultivation could also become the reason for your survival. You still have to thank Master Jing Si for being lenient and not easily taking your life. Master. Xiang Yang said with a smile, since he didn't let junior brother know his identity, he naturally just took it out on him to vent his anger. If we were to make it clear, wouldn't we make him lose face? This matter, let's just leave it as it is. We'll be happy secretly. That's all we can do. Xiang Yang helplessly said, if I had known earlier, I wouldn't have given up. At this point, he helplessly stopped talking and ordered, since Xiao Hua has already built his foundation, he must leave his life spirit tablet in my Genlei Palace. Xiang Yang, tomorrow, accompany him to Genlei Palace. After leaving his life spirit tablet, take the tablet to Genlei Palace and get a spirit-seeking mouse. Find a place near my myriad Thunder Valley and open a residence for Xiao Hua. Yes, disciple understands. Xiang Yang cupped his hands and agreed. Then, the people of myriad Thunder Valley casually talked about some interesting things. Xiao Hua picked some unimportant things and told them about his experience with Xue Xue. Everyone listened and nodded. Xiang Zhili's eyes became even brighter. Then, Xiao Hua asked about Xiang Zhili. It turned out that Xiang Zhili didn't acknowledge anyone as his master. That year, when Xiang Zhili tested his physique in the Imperial Thunder sect, it caused a sensation. This little guy was the direct product of a lightning beast's inner core. How could any disciple of the Imperial Thunder sect compare to him? Even Master Lei Meng took a liking to him. Unfortunately, Xiang Zhili was too young and didn't have any cultivation. As a nascent soul cultivator, Master Lei Meng didn't have the patience to teach him. Therefore, he sent him to Genlei Palace and let him listen to the lectures with the other disciples. Master Lei Meng ordered that as long as Xiang Zhili was willing to learn and could learn, he must learn. After he built his foundation, Master Lei Meng might personally teach him. Acknowledging a nascent soul cultivator as a master was the wish of all foundation establishment disciples, not to mention chi refining disciples. Although Xiang Zhili didn't really acknowledge a master, he couldn't build his foundation with his current cultivation. All the disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect with lightning physique couldn't build their foundation. Therefore, there was no difference between acknowledging Xiang Zhili as a master and not acknowledging a master. Therefore, Xiang Zhili usually cultivated in Genlei Palace. Every month or so, Xiang Yang and Yan Qinglian would bring him back. Now, Xiang Zhili was the treasure of myriad Thunder Valley. Not only did he give face to Wu Hai, Xiang Zhili's aptitude also made Wu Hai dumbfounded. After facing Xiang Yang and Xiao Hua for a long time, Wu Hai finally saw the excellence of his third-generation disciple. He had long held Xiang Zhili in his hands. Although Wu Hai doted on him, Xiang Zhili was extremely intelligent. Under Xiang Yang's care, he was naughty and methodical. Take today's meeting with Xiao Hua for example. If it were any other child, after paying respects to Wu Hai and Zhuo Minghui, they would have directly paid their respects to Xiao Hua. But he had to respectfully pay his respects to Cui Hongshan before kowtowing to Xiao Hua. As for acknowledging Xiao Hua as his adoptive father, that was his own idea. There was no other reason but because Xiang Yang and Yan Qinglian, husband and wife, were talking to each other and their tone was full of admiration for Xiao Hua. This little guy had his own thoughts. Chapter 2183. How else could it be said? Some people's luck was innate, and others couldn't even ask for it. It couldn't be helped. This was the legendary, the pavilion closest to the water enjoys the moonlight first. Zhong Haoren and the others had probably received Xiao Hua's test, and in the future, they would be able to part the dark clouds and see the bright moon. But Xiang Zhili only had to kowtow a few times, and the road ahead had already reached the heavens. Hee, this child. Xiao Hua looked at Xiang Zhili with a smile. Where was the dissatisfaction of being schemed against? At this time, Xiao Hua had already left the cave and was sitting in Xiang Yang and Yan Qinglian's cave. It's all because of my poor upbringing. Yan Qinglian hurriedly smiled apologetically. She knew that Xiao Hua was still a little petty, especially from Cui Hongshan today. Not at all. Xiao Hua waved his hand, they are all my juniors. If I don't help him, who else can I help? However, the gift for the child is a bit too little. I really feel bad about it. Ha ha ha, you still feel bad about it. Xiangyang laughed. Little junior brother, what else do you want to give him? He's still too young. It's really inappropriate to give him too much. Xiaohua scratched his head, and his heart moved again. He nodded and said, that magic treasure is nothing. As for the rest, I already have some ideas. However, this matter is a bit tricky. However, I'll take a look. I'll definitely make senior brother satisfied. Then, he looked at Xiang Zhili and said, Li Her, you go back and rest first. Foster father has something to say to your parents. Xiaohua's words were a bit inappropriate. After all, this was Xiang Yang's cave. However, Xiang Yang and Yan Qinglian didn't show any dissatisfaction. Xiang Zhili was even more happy. Knowing that Xiaohua didn't blame him for his decision today, he immediately stood up and bowed. Yes, this boy originally wanted to accompany foster father. However, this boy must obey foster father's orders. Then, Xiang Zhili saluted Xiang Yang and Yan Qinglian and slowly left. He, senior brother. Xiaohua looked at Xiang Zhili's back and said with a smile, Li Er really missed you. His future cultivation will definitely be extraordinary. Xiang Yang smiled modestly and shook his head. I didn't know what master was thinking before. I always felt that he blamed me for nothing. But now that I have my own child, I know that it seems that I have to compete with others in everything. Although there was no need to compare, and it was fine to let the child cultivate on his own, but seeing that other people could cultivate it, his own child couldn't. It was clearly a simple technique, but he couldn't understand it. How could he not be angry? When Li Er was young, I also taught him a lesson. What's there to talk about having an extraordinary cultivation? It's all fake. Yan Qinglian echoed, as a matter of fact, we will be satisfied as long as our children can live the life that they want. Training and achievements are more like coercion for our children than expectations. Xiaohua scratched his head, this little brother really doesn't know. Xiang Yang laughed and patted his shoulder. You'll find out sooner or later. Isn't that so? Yan Qinglian also pursed her lips and smiled. It can't be too little, right? Fine, Xiaohua's face reddened as he begged for mercy. Senior brother and eldest sister-in-law, please don't joke about this little brother. This little brother let Li Er go because of two things. Oh. Xiang Yang glanced at Yan Qinglian. Both of them were somewhat serious, knowing that Xiaohua had something important to say. Sure enough, Xiaohua clapped his hands and took out a rainbow epiphyllum and handed it over. He said with a smile, this little brother's experience really has some gains. And it can't be said to be half. It's only about 30%. As for the rest, this elder brother took it back to Myriad Thunder Valley and asked Master to make a decision. Master was clever and handed over Martial Uncle Jinye's things. However, he left the lightning beast's inner core behind. However, Master, he didn't seem to have used it. He said that he would only use it at the last crucial moment. As for the rest, I'm afraid he gave it to junior brother Cui. When he finished speaking, Xiang Yang's face turned somewhat ugly. Junior brother Xiao, what do you want the lightning beast's inner core for? Could it be that you've already used it up? Yan Qinglian hurriedly asked. Oh, that little brother naturally didn't use it up. Xiaohua muttered. However, this little brother wants to use the male lightning beast's inner core now. I'll have to trouble senior brother. Junior brother Xiao. Xiang Yang coughed and said, this lightning beast's inner core should belong to junior brother. Even if I don't take it, it's only right. However, junior brother Cui is a disciple of Myriad Thunder Valley. That lightning beast's inner core. I heard from him that he was going to give it to Dui Chiming as a betrothal gift. If you take it, what will he do? How much did he take? Xiao Hua asked coldly. The remaining 70%. Master kept 30%. I'm afraid he gave 40% to him. Xiang Yang hesitated and said. Can Master's 30% be used up? Xiao Hua asked again. Xiang Yang hesitated again. He glanced at Yan Qinglian and said, Master said that the lightning beast's inner core is no small matter. Even if I want to repair my Dao foundation, I only need 20%. As for the remaining 10%, it's all given to Li. I'm afraid he only needs 10%. So it's like this. Xiao Hua nodded. He muttered a few words to Xiang Yang through voice transmission. After listening to Xiao Hua's explanation, Xiang Yang smiled bitterly and said, Junior brother Xiao, why do you have to do this? Master giving it to him is another matter. However, that thing is mine. I have a use for it now. I'll have to trouble senior brother this time. Xiao Hua said with a slightly cold tone. All right. Xiang Yang nodded helplessly. He got up and left. Since Xiao Hua took out the rainbow epiphyllum for Xiang Zhili, he had no choice but to help Xiao Hua with this matter. Senior sister-in-law. Don't stay idle. Xiao Hua also transmitted his voice to Yan Qinglian. Ah. You actually have ideas about Master. Yan Qinglian was shocked when she heard this. Xiao Hua smiled and said, Master only needs 10%. Who does he want to leave the rest for? You only need to do as I say. Master will definitely give it to you. All right. Yan Qinglian was helpless. She also got up and said, This concubine will try. Xiang Yang and Yan Qinglian were both sent away by Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua sat alone on the jade chair in the hall with his eyes closed. No one knew what he was doing. At this time, a small head popped out from the side. It secretly looked at him and then hid again. After a while, Xiang Zhili walked over with a jade plate in his hand. On the plate, there was a jade pot and a few jade cups. When Xiang Zhili walked to Xiao Hua's side, he carefully put the jade plate on the table. He picked up the jade pot and poured the spirit wine into the jade cups. He didn't make any sound. Then he put the cups down and sat beside Xiao Hua. He actually used his small hands to support his cheeks and looked at Xiao Hua curiously. What are you doing? Xiao Hua suddenly opened his eyes and asked curiously. Foster father, are you thirsty? This is the spirit wine that mother treasures. Try it. Xiang Zhili was shocked. He quickly jumped down from the chair and said respectfully. You want me to drink wine? Xiao Hua said with a smile. Xiang Zhili said with a smile, inviting foster father to drink wine is naturally one thing. However, the boy is still curious. Father and mother often say that foster father's cultivation is so high that they can't catch up. But foster father's cultivation is only at the early stage of foundation establishment. It seems that compared to father and mother, you are far worse. Even Martial Uncle Chui can't catch up. Foster father, are you really that powerful? Xiao Hua smiled. He reached out and picked up the small wine cup. He took a sip and said, How do you know that my cultivation is only at the early stage of foundation establishment? Naturally, it's a sensing technique. Xiang Zhili asked curiously, if the boy has spiritual pressure, he can also use it to test it. Since there's a technique to sense other people's cultivation, there's naturally a technique to prevent others from sensing your own cultivation. Xiaohua said with a smile, moreover, that spiritual pressure may not be reliable. There's such a technique. Xiang Zhili's eyes lit up. He clapped his hands and said, then wouldn't the boy be able to make others think that the boy is only at the second stage of qi refining? If they use ordinary techniques to attack the boy can defeat them with his true cultivation at the seventh stage of qi refining. Xiaohua was speechless. Isn't this child too smart? That's right, foster father. Father said that in the future, foster father will teach me a great divine ability. Is this that great divine ability? Senior, can you teach the boy now? Xiang Zhili's face was filled with longing. Looking at Xiang Zhili's small face, Xiaohua suddenly thought of Daoist Jing Ru's sinister face. Thus, Xiaohua sighed and said, what kind of great technique is that? Xiaohua laughed hoarsely. He patted his forehead and spat out a ray of green-red light from his mouth. That ray of green-red light circled the entire cave. Even someone like Xiang Zhili, who was at the seventh stage of qi refining, couldn't see any clues. When the ray of green-red light landed in Xiaohua's hand, it was the execution dream that had successfully conceived the sword. That secret technique can't even compare to the flying sword technique. It simply can't be considered a great technique. Xiaohua said with a smile, do you also want to learn the flying sword technique? Yes. Xiang Zhili's eyes were filled with longing. His small head nodded like a chick pecking at rice. And, if you want to learn it, you have to establish a solid foundation for your qi refining. First, you have to master the basic mental cultivation method. Moreover, the flying sword technique isn't a great technique. If you want to learn it, foster father can naturally teach it to you. Also, regarding the matter of the great divine ability, you must not tell anyone about it. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Qidian. Come to vote for it. Chapter 2184. Yes, the boy understands. Xiang Zhili said seriously, this is Godfather's secret. The boy will swear a hard oath to never tell anyone else. Godfather, you can teach me now, right? Humph. Xiaohua snorted, his face cold. Do you think a hard oath can be made so casually? I'm telling you this because I'm not afraid of you telling others. Moreover, this is just a small trick. Even if it's called a secret technique, it can't compare to real cultivation. Why don't you think about how to cultivate? When your cultivation is high enough, I'll teach you a great divine ability. Why are you thinking about these small tricks? Xiang Zhili saw that Xiaohua was angry and hurriedly bowed. Godfather, please calm down. The boy knows he was wrong. The boy won't dare to think about anything else in the future. Damn. Why am I the same as master? Xiaohua complained in his heart, but he still said with a cold face, also, it's good to be a little smart, but you can't rely on it. If you plot against your family, they won't mind. But if it's someone else, there might be some bad karma. Being an upright person and cultivating clearly is the way to reach the heavens. Yes, the boy understands. Xiang Zhili hurriedly said. Xiaohua nodded, his expression gentle. After thinking for a while, he said, however, if you really meet an enemy, you don't have to be too rigid. What's sinister? What can you win? Who cares? What can you win? Who cares? It's best if you can win and live. The boy understands. Xiang Zhili smiled. The beginning was the same as what father said, but in the end, he's better than father. And, that's enough. Go and rest. Xiaohua said. Your cultivation is still shallow, and you're still too young. Godfather can't think of any good secret techniques to teach you for the time being. When you're older and Godfather's cultivation has some progress, it won't be too late to teach you then. Yes, the boy understands. Xiangjili smiled and said, "What I've learned now is already tiring enough for me. Let's wait until I reach the foundation establishment stage. At that time, foster father must guide me in my cultivation." All right. Xiaohua readily agreed. He knew quite a number of magic arts, many of which were secret arts. But thinking about it, in the future, Lei Mengzhenren would personally guide Xiangjili in his cultivation. These things might even affect Xiangjili's cultivation. Therefore, Xiaohua really didn't know what to give him. Since Xiangjili was still young, he had plenty of time to think about it. After Xiangjili carefully withdrew, Xiaohua clapped his hands and took out Shue's 2 jade slips. One was pink, and the other was just given to him by Xiangyang. The restriction on the pink jade slip was still there. It was exactly as Shue had said. As long as she didn't die, the jade slip couldn't be opened. What the hell is in there? Xiaohua was extremely bewildered. If it was about foundation building, Shue should have removed the restriction on the pink jade slip at that time and let him examine it. However, Shue didn't seem to have thought about this jade slip at all. However, when they first arrived at Kuei-He, Shue took the jade slip from him. She seemed to have written something and returned it to him. Forget it. There will always be a time when the truth comes to light. Let's wait. Maybe the day of dual cultivation will also be the day when the mystery of this pink jade slip will be revealed. Xiaohua thought of the pink jade slip and his heart swayed. With a smile on his face, he carefully put the pink jade slip into his space. When Xiaohua immersed his divine sense into the other jade slip, a strange expression unconsciously appeared on his face. Yes, the jade slip clearly stated that after Xiaohua flew away, Shue actually went in the direction of Reverend Jing Ru until she saw Reverend Jing Ru's face with her own eyes. Then, Shue returned to Sunset Island. Although Kua Heng was somewhat surprised, he still received Shue as a distinguished guest. However, Shue was burning with anxiety and didn't stop at all. Accompanied by Heartwarming and Kua Qiao, she left Kuei-He. According to Xiaohua's plan, Zhongling Mountain Village should send more people to escort Shue. However, Shue didn't go to Zhongling Mountain Village at all. Instead, she found a teleportation formation nearby and arrived at Inkcloud Black Forest. After passing through Inkcloud Black Forest, she arrived at Haoming City. Then, Kua Qiao and Heartwarming returned to Kuei-He. Yu Qin of Haoming City sent city guards to escort Shue all the way back to Imperial Thunder Sect. When Shue arrived at Imperial Thunder Sect, she immediately went to Myriad Thunder Valley and told Xiaohua about the danger he was in. She also described the appearance of the nascent soul cultivator clearly. Xiaohua naturally heard about the things that happened after that from Xiangyang and the others. However, Xiaohua was slightly puzzled by the latter part of the story. "Husband, I know that you will definitely be fine. However, I can't help but feel anxious and worried. I know that doing these things won't help your return at all, but I still have to do it. It seems that if I don't do these things, my heart won't be at ease. Only when I can do some small things for you, even if it's something that is completely useless, can I feel that I have some value by your side. Husband, when you saw the jade slip, I was already in seclusion. Master thinks very highly of me. Naturally, I have already given all the credit for my foundation building to you. Presumably, when you and I dual cultivate in the future, Master will consider it carefully. Husband. I'm afraid you will be disappointed again, right? I can't serve you anymore. But don't worry, I will come out of seclusion very soon. When you and I meet again, it will be the time when you and I combine. I will definitely let you know that what Fairy Hong Xia can do, I can also do. I can do it, even better than her. This silly child. Xiao Hua saw that Xue Xue actually took the risk to check Daoist Jingyu's appearance, and his heart ached. If Daoist Jingyu wasn't in a hurry to kill him, she might really have captured Xue Xue. Even thinking about how Daoist Jingyu didn't hesitate to kill many low-level cultivators along the way to cover her tracks, Xiao Hua actually felt some lingering fear. However, how does Xue Xue know that I will definitely be fine? Xiao Hua muttered to himself again. It seemed that Xue Xue had also vaguely said this when they were separated from each other in Feng He Hai. Could it be that she also has the ability to predict the future? Not to mention Xiao Hua's contemplation, Xiang Yang, who had received Xiao Hua's request, flew to Cui Hongshan's immortal cave. After his figure landed, he was rather hesitant. At this moment, Cui Hongshan, who was inside the immortal cave, sensed movement and swept out his divine sense. Seeing that it was Xiang Yang, he immediately flew out of the immortal cave and bowed. Eldest senior brother, I don't know why you are looking for me. This. Xiang Yang was still embarrassed to speak. Eldest senior brother, please come inside the immortal cave and talk. Cui Hongshan smiled and invited Xiang Yang into the immortal cave. Chapter 2185. After pouring the spiritual tea for Xiang Yang said with a smile, Junior brother Cui, your cave is still short of people. After you marry Qiming, you should accept a disciple. Senior brother is right. Cui Hongshan said with a smile, however, I'm used to being frugal and don't like to take any disciple. If I find a good-for-nothing, it won't be enough for me to worry about. And if I want to accept a disciple, I'm afraid it has to be at the late stage of foundation establishment, right? Then after dual cultivation, you can have a child and train him yourself. Xiang Yang knew he was wrong and quickly corrected himself. Alas, how can it be that easy? Cui Hongshan shook his head and said, first, not all children are as smart as Li. Who knows what will happen if we have another child in the Myriad Thunder Valley? Second, this matter still depends on Qiming. Senior brother, didn't you see Master? Master's matter is not something we can discuss. Xiang Yang hurriedly stopped him. Let's not talk about this. Cui Hongshan said with a smile, I don't know why senior brother is looking for me. Actually, I have something to ask of you, junior brother. Xiang Yang said as he stood up and bowed respectfully. Don't. Cui Hongshan was shocked and hurriedly raised his hand, senior brother, what are you doing? If you have something to ask, just say it. As long as I can do it, I will definitely do it. Well, since it's like this, I won't be polite. Xiang Yang sat down and set up a mute restriction. He hesitated for a moment and said, Junior brother Cui, do you still have the Thunder Beast's inner core? Yes. Cui Hongshan said curiously, I still don't dare to use it. However, Cui Hongshan's face changed immediately. He seemed to think of something and said coldly, what? Senior brother, are you here to ask for it on behalf of Xiao Hua? Xiang Yang was very embarrassed and sighed. Junior brother Cui must know that this Thunder Beast's inner core was obtained by Xiao Hua. Senior brother, no need to say it. Cui Hongshan waved his hand and said, little brother has already heard these words from eldest senior apprentice brother. Little brother also understands in his heart that these words were fabricated by eldest senior apprentice brother because he wanted to change Xiao Hua's impression in front of master. When this guy came back and heard that his little brother had taken the lightning beast's inner core, he was not convinced. Or perhaps, he needed the thunder beast's inner core right now, which was why he encouraged eldest senior brother to come here and ask for it. Eldest senior brother, He saw that you were kind, so he came to deceive you. Why did you let him use you like a flying sword? Besides, this inner core was given to me by Master. If he wants it, he can ask Master for it. As long as Master says so, I will definitely give it to him. Ahem. Xiang Yang's face was slightly red. He coughed twice and said, actually, that's what I thought too. However, there's already a gap between you and him, and he just built his foundation. If he directly asks Master for it, do you think Master will give it to him? Why would I give it to him? With his aptitude and the fact that he just entered Foundation establishment, he dares to covet the Thunder Beast's inner core. Cui Hongshan said disdainfully. So. Xiang Yang said embarrassedly, he had no choice but to ask me for help. Eldest senior brother. You're too easy to talk to. Cui Hongshan looked at Xiang Yang snappily. You're such a nice guy. If he wants it, then let him beg me himself. Junior brother Cui. Xiang Yang knew that Xiao Hua would never come to beg Cui Hongshan. He smiled apologetically and said, do you think he will come? He wants to benefit himself, but he doesn't want to beg others. How can there be such a good thing in this world? Cui Hongshan was so angry that he laughed. Does he think I'm so easy to bully? This Thunder Beast's inner core is related to my Golden Core's hope. Xiang Yang chuckled again, and said, Xiaohua also knows that this is related to your cultivation, so he is embarrassed to speak. Isn't it because Li wants to be his adoptive father? Just now, he brought it up in Elder Brother's Immortal's Cave. Since he has spoken, how can Elder Brother not give him face? However, he still said that he will definitely return Junior Brother Cui's favor, and he will definitely make Junior Brother Cui satisfied. TCH him. Cui Hongshan sneered. I don't know where he got it from last time. At this point, he suddenly realized that he had made a vow and immediately shut his mouth. Little brother doesn't believe that he has anything good for little brother. I'm afraid that once this Thunder Beast's inner core is sold, it will be like throwing a meat bun at a dog. Seeing that Cui Hongshan didn't relent, Xiang Yang said again, however, Junior Brother Xiao doesn't intend to take it all. He said clearly that Junior Brother Cui only needs to leave 10% of the entire inner core. He still has the nerve. I have 40% of this Thunder Beast's inner core, and he actually dares to ask for 30%. Cui Hongshan was furious. Doesn't he know? I'm going to use this Thunder Beast's inner core as a betrothal gift. If there's no such thing, what does my 10,000 Thunder Valley have that the converted Thunder Palace would like? Cough cough, Junior Brother Cui, isn't there still 3 years? No one can guarantee that there won't be any good things in these 3 years. Xiang Yang said step by step, and Cui Hongshan was somewhat moved. If he directly asked for 40%, Cui Hongshan would never give it to him. Now that he left him 10%, it could be considered a trick. Eldest senior brother, this is related to junior brother's future happiness. Cui Hongshan was somewhat helpless. Junior brother knows that eldest senior brother and Xiao Hua have deep feelings for each other, but, has eldest senior brother thought about junior brother? Xiang Yang still didn't get angry and explained, senior brother also thought about it. These days, I've been preparing, but there are still 3 years, so there's no need to be too anxious. On the other hand, junior brother Xiao. Okay, eldest senior brother, Xiao Hua's matter is a matter, but junior brother's matter isn't a matter. Cui Hongshan stood up and said, junior brother still has a technique to comprehend, so I won't keep eldest senior brother any longer. Junior brother Cui. Xiang Yang was anxious, and said with a bow, you and Xiao Hua already have a grudge. This is a good opportunity for you two to eliminate the grudge. Senior brother really doesn't want to see two disciples of my 10,000 Thunder Valley. And, if it doesn't work, senior brother will kneel in front of you. Io, eldest senior brother. Chui Hongshan didn't dare to let Xiangyang kneel. He immediately pulled him and sighed, eldest senior brother should go back first, let junior brother think about it again. Sigh, okay. Xiangyang sighed, looking very old. He waved his hand and said, I hope junior brother Chui can think about it carefully and understand senior brother a little. After saying that, he removed the mute restriction and walked away. Seeing Xiangyang return, Xiaohua opened his eyes and asked indifferently, how was it? Eldest senior brother, that guy didn't want to take out the Thunder Beast's inner core, right? Of course not. Xiangyang said with a smile. Junior brother Chui knew that junior brother Xiao wanted to use it, so he was very happy. However, he was a little hesitant because this inner core was his betrothal gift, so he wanted to think about it again. Eldest senior brother, don't say any more. How could junior brother not know what kind of character that guy is? Xiaohua sneered, since he didn't want to give it, then don't blame junior brother. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Qidian. Calm to vote for it. Chapter 2186. When Xiangyang heard this, he jumped in fright and hurriedly stopped Xiaohua. Junior brother Xiao, what are you doing? No matter what, he's still your fellow disciple. Don't do anything to hurt him. Xiangyang knew that Xiaohua dealing with Chui Hongshan was as easy as lifting a finger. Even Xiangyang doubted whether his master could be Xiaohua's opponent. How could I? Xiaohua patted Xiangyang's shoulder and smiled. How could I kill the innocent? At this moment, Yan Qinglian quickly walked in with a smile on her face. How was it, eldest senior sister-in-law? Did master's wife succeed? Xiaohua smiled. He was about to walk out when he stopped. Yan Qinglian's face was full of smiles and even a little red. She said, junior brother's words are really useful. Master originally didn't want to give it to you. But master's wife just said a few words and master immediately obediently gave it to me. Xiangyang was confused and asked, what's going on? Isn't it because junior brother wants master's Thunder Beast inner core? Yan Qinglian tossed her hand and took out a jade box with a talisman on it. She handed it to Xiaohua. This is 20% of the Thunder Beast inner core. Junior brother, keep it. Good boy, junior brother, what are you doing? Xiangyang was even more stunned. You already got 20% from master, why do you still want 30%? Junior brother naturally has a use for it. Xiaohua took the jade box and put it into his space without even looking. Oh, right, what did master's wife say? Master just obediently gave it to you. Xiangyang wanted to stop Xiaohua and deliberately asked. It's very simple. Xiaohua smiled. Master's wife only needed to say, Xiangyang used the Thunder Beast inner core to get Xiangjili's gift. You only need 10% of the Thunder Beast inner core to step into the golden core stage. Then what are you keeping the other 20% for? Can it be like that? Xiangyang was stunned and then immediately understood. So, master had no choice but to give the other 20% to master's wife for safekeeping. So, you got it. That's right. Xiaohua smiled and was about to leave again. How could Xiangyang let him harm Chui Hongshan? He hurriedly said, Junior brother Xiao, let's wait. Yan Qinglian also knew what was going on and was very anxious. At this moment, Xiangjili ran out and shouted, Father, Mother. What happened? Xiangyang was curious. He was about to scold Xiangjili when he noticed the jade box in Xiangjili's hand. Just now, the boy was playing outside the cave when a message talisman suddenly flew in. I don't know who sent it, so the boy followed the instructions on the message talisman and walked into the thicket in the Myriad Thunder Valley. He found a jade box inside. Boy doesn't have enough magic power to open this talisman. Xiangjili's little face was filled with excitement as he held up the jade box. Oh. Xiangyang was taken aback. He took the jade box, but when he saw the familiar talisman on the box, he couldn't help but smile bitterly. He passed the box to Xiaohua. This is for you. Oh. Xiaohua was really surprised. Who threw it? Father, how did you know it was foster father? Xiangjili was very curious and asked, when did foster father throw this jade box outside? Xiaohua was slightly embarrassed. He received the jade box and said, foster father accidentally threw it. Thank you. Okay, you're welcome, foster father. Xiangjili skipped out of the cave again. Xiangyang and Yan Qinglian looked at each other. Yan Qinglian said in a low voice, little junior brother, you see, he doesn't seem to be as bad as you think, right? Hee, this was originally little brother's. Xiaohua curled his lips. He clapped his hands and took out 3 more jade boxes. Before going into seclusion, I have to open a cave first. But, do I really have to leave my life tablet in Zhenlei Palace? Xiaohua knew that there was something wrong with his blood. He really didn't want to leave anything behind in Zhenlei Palace that could be used against him. However, the next day, when Xiangyang brought Xiaohua to Zhenlei Palace, Xiaohua found out from Xiangyang that only Foundation Establishment disciples who finished making their life tablet and left it in Zhenlei Palace's Jade Archive Hall could get a command tablet from the master in charge of the Jade Archive Hall. Only Foundation Establishment disciples could use the command tablet to get a spirit-seeking mouse and open a cave in the territory of the Imperial Thunder Sect. Forget it. Xiaohua shook his head helplessly when he thought about how the Imperial Thunder Sect had so many rules. Naturally, they were afraid that some disciples wouldn't follow the rules. Xiaohua came to Jade Archive Hall when he first entered the Imperial Thunder Sect. At that time, it was also led by Xiangyang, but this time, it was different from the previous time. The people who were laughing at Xiangyang's 100 years of foundation building were no longer laughing. Instead, they were replaced with respect. Some of the Foundation Establishment middle stage martial brothers even pulled Xiangyang to ask him how to teach their children. Looking at the eager faces of these martial brothers, Xiaohua couldn't help but laugh. Not only was he moved by the change in their attitudes, but he was also moved by their sacrifice for their children. Of course, many disciples also recognized Xiaohua. They also knew that although Xiaohua didn't build his foundation in 100 years, it took him a long time to build his foundation. Although there was some contempt on their faces, their words were much better than the first time. There were also more words of encouragement. There were even a few martial brothers who took out early-stage Foundation Establishment medicinal pills and gave them to Xiaohua. Xiangyang stole a glance at Xiaohua. He was still afraid that Xiaohua would get angry, but Xiaohua was calm. He reached out his hand to accept them and thanked them. There was nothing unnatural about it, which made Xiangyang very confused. When there was no one around, Xiangyang asked, "Little martial brother, these medicinal pills, do you still need them? There's no reason for you to give them a favor." Xiaohua patted his storage bag and curled his lips. What's there to give them a favor? Aren't they a little too ungrateful? If you don't take the medicinal pills that they sent to you, the heavens will be angry. In the future, no one will give you any. Besides, even if I don't use them, there's still Li, right? Leave them for him. Ha ha ha. Xiangyang laughed and patted his stingy little martial brother. Not long after, Xiaohua and the others arrived at Jade Archive Hall. Sure enough, there were 2 or 3 12th-layer aura refining disciples standing in front of Jade Archive Hall. They were on duty. Ha! Xiaohua didn't use his divine sense, but he could clearly see that the one who was berating the other 2 was Zhen Liang, whom he taught with his fists in the past. Hearing footsteps, Zhen Liang turned his head while cursing. I'll be honest with you. It's your fortune that senior martial brother called you to be on duty. Ha! Zhen Liang immediately shut up because he saw Xiaohua. He had been on duty in Jade Archive Hall for such a long time, and the only one who came out to beat him was Xiaohua. How could he forget? At this time, he saw that Xiang Yang, who had become very famous in recent years, had unexpectedly brought Xiaohua, who was at Foundation Establishment, over. Naturally, his face was very unsightly. Junior greets martial uncle Xiang Yang. Junior greets Xiao. Martial uncle Xiao. When Zhen Liang called Xiang Yang, it was smooth, but when he called Xiaohua, it was really hard for him to say it out loud. Unfortunately, this was the rule of cultivation sections. Although you have advanced 100 li, but the younger generation is catching up with you, you have no choice but to lower your head and call them respectfully. Isn't this also a kind of spur? Xiaohua had always been a person who held grudges and was very narrow-minded. Although his face was all smiles, his mouth had already said, "Oh, so it's Martial Nephew General previously. I had to trouble Martial Nephew Gen when I was registering for the Imperial Thunder Sect. Now that I've reached Foundation Establishment, my natal spirit tablet is still Martial Nephew General. I've really troubled you. I'm really sorry." "Ha, it's no matter, no matter." Zhen Liang's face was very awkward, and even his face was red and hot. "Oh, that's right. I remember that there's also someone called Zhen Ming. Where did he go?" Xiaohua looked around, pretending to be looking for him. "Why don't I see him?" Martial Uncle Xiao, Martial Uncle Zhen Ming has also reached Foundation Establishment. He has already been transferred to another place. A trace of resentment appeared on Zhen Liang's face, as if there was some hidden story. Xiaohua originally wanted to say something, but Xiang Yang stopped him and said with a smile, "Martial Nephew Zhen, my junior martial brother has also reached Foundation Establishment. I'll have to trouble Martial Nephew Zhen to invite senior martial brother Zhen over." Ugh. Seeing Xiang Yang's bearing, Xiaohua suddenly felt that he was very small. The small in his heart was forced out and revealed without a doubt. Of course, although Zhen Liang hadn't reached Foundation Establishment and although he did make some small moves against him that day, he had still beaten him up that day. It could be said that they were even. But now, he was using Zhen Liang's shortcomings to ridicule him. It seemed, it was the same as when he hadn't reached Foundation Establishment yet. He didn't seem to be much more noble than others. As Xiaohua's shield set off a gust of wind, there was a soft, "kacha" sound, and a layer of golden brilliance appeared on the jade token. Xiaohua's life spirit tablet was refined by him in the blink of an eye. Hiss. Seeing this, Xiang Yang sucked in a breath of cold air, sweat. It seems that every time Xiaohua reveals some of his strength, the onlookers are all like this. It wasn't only because of the golden light on the jade slip, but also because Xiaohua had already revealed the golden light the first time. What shocked him was Xiaohua's refining technique. It was very clear that Xiang Yang himself had also come here in the past because of helplessness. Even Cui Hongshan had come here with Xiang Yang. Xiang Yang knew how difficult it was to refine this natal spirit tablet. He himself, under helplessness's guidance, spent a lot of effort, and barely succeeded in refining it. Cui Hongshan wasn't that strong. Xiang Yang had guided him for half a day, but he also barely succeeded. This was also the reason why Zhen Zhen didn't wait here. It was also the reason why Zhen Liang left. It was very embarrassing for a disciple who had just reached the foundation establishment stage. But what about Xiao Hua? It was as easy as lifting a finger, as easy as lifting a finger. Previously, Xiang Yang really thought that what Xiao Hua said was true, but he didn't expect him to succeed with just a lift of his hand. Xiang Yang glanced at Zhen Liang and hurriedly said, "Junior brother, refining this natal spirit tablet is very difficult. Back then, it took me half a day to refine it. My junior brother Cui from the 10,000 Thunder Valley also took half a day. Don't worry, slowly refine it." Ah! Xiao Hua was stunned. He bitterly smiled and thought, "Eldest senior brother, you should have said so earlier." That's right, for Xiao Hua, who was proficient in refining the world, this was really too easy. He only wanted to hide the golden light and didn't care about anything else. Fortunately, the golden light on the natal spirit tablet had already gradually disappeared, and it actually turned into a plain jade slip. It was very simple, very low-key, and very secretive, just like Xiao Hua. Thus, Xiao Hua put on an act for almost half a day, but Zhen Liang really didn't come over. Xiao Hua called out, "Martial nephew Zhen, I've finally finished. Please come over and take a look." "Haha, martial uncle Xiao is really amazing." Zhen Liang heard him and came over with a smile. Usually, a disciple who just entered the foundation establishment realm would definitely not be able to refine it in half a day. Martial uncle Xiao actually succeeded in less than half a day. All these years of suffering weren't in vain. Then, Zhen Liang took the natal spirit tablet and took out a fist-sized jade ball. He formed a seal and hit it. The jade ball gradually turned into a fog. Then, Zhen Liang threw Xiao Hua's natal spirit tablet into it. A golden light flashed inside, illuminating the entire fog. Oh! Xiao Hua was a little surprised. He didn't think that the jade ball would still reveal a strange golden light. Of course, Zhen Liang's face also showed a little surprise. Xiao Hua secretly said in his heart, "Not good. It's a little strange." Sure enough, Zhen Liang frowned and said, "There's something wrong with martial uncle Zhao's natal spirit tablet. There should be a vague human figure in this fog." Xiao Hua rolled his eyes and asked, "Is it like this for all successful natal spirit tablets? Must it have a human figure? Or is there something else?" "That's not necessarily true." Zhen Liang raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, "Natal spirit tablets are made by using the traces of a cultivator's primordial spirit in their blood. And every cultivator's primordial spirit is different. Ordinary cultivators are all in human form, but there are also some strange ones." Haha, this disciple has also heard of this before. However, this is the first time that martial uncle Xiao can't see it at all. Chapter 2188. Then, is this life spirit tablet considered a success? Xiang Yang was more concerned about this. Of course. Zhen Liang smiled apologetically. If it wasn't, there wouldn't be any light at all. It wouldn't even be able to be placed into this jade ball. Oh, that's good. Xiang Yang heaved a sigh of relief. Zhen Liang took out Xiao Hua's life spirit tablet and carefully placed it inside the restriction. After activating the restriction, he smiled and said, "Martial Uncle Zhao's life spirit tablet has been completed. This is Martial Uncle Zhao's token. You can use this token to go to the spiritual beast hall of the Thunder Palace to receive a spirit-seeking mouse and establish a residence within the Thunder Palace. Disciple congratulates Martial Uncle Xiao." Ha, congratulations to you too. Xiaohua clapped his hands and took out a few pills for Zhen Liang. As long as martial nephew Zhen puts in the effort, you can also build your foundation. You don't have to be so polite. Zhen Liang stretched out his hand and pushed it over. However, when he saw the pills in Xiaohua's hand, he was stunned and said in shock, Sway. Sway pill. The hand that was pushing out, froze there. Ha, I just happened to come across this item when I was out training. Xiaohua pushed it slightly and placed the pills in his hand. He explained, since I have already built my foundation, I don't need this item anymore. Martial nephew Zhen, take it. If someone uses it, it's called a pill. If no one uses it, it's nothing. Yes. Zhen Liang thought for a moment and accepted it with a smile. He said, Disciple thanks martial Uncle Xiao for your kindness. If it was any other pill, disciple wouldn't dare to accept it. Xiaohua nodded. Just as he was about to speak, he suddenly heard a kacha sound from the distance of the Jade Archive hole. Shortly after, he took out a light purple restriction that emitted a strong brilliance, illuminating the entire Jade Archive hole. Oh no, I don't know which senior from the Thunder Palace was killed. Zhen Liang was shocked. He didn't dare to say anything more to Xiaohua and hurriedly flew over. At this moment, two disciples guarding outside the Jade Archive Hall also rushed in. When Zhen Liang opened the restriction, he saw a pink spirit tablet with a long crack on it. Moreover, the position of the token wasn't low. Quick, inform Martial Uncle Zhen Zhen. Zhen Liang ordered the disciples who had rushed over. A Golden Core Realm Master from Converging Thunder Palace has died. Yes. That disciple didn't dare to be negligent and left after receiving the order. On the other hand, Zhen Liang said apologetically, Martial Uncle Xiao, this disciple originally wanted to ask Martial Uncle for some advice on foundation establishment. You see, there's another urgent matter in the sect. Please forgive me. Haha, this Xiao's matter is already done. If there is a chance in the future, Martial nephew Zhen can come to my 10,000 Thunder Valley. Xiaohua cupped his hands and said, I will take my leave now. Then, Zhen Liang respectfully sent the two of them out. The situation was completely different from the first time they had come. However, when Xiaohua and Xiangyang walked far away, Zhen Liang couldn't help but look at the Thunder Palace's restrictions. His eyes were somewhat strange. Not to mention Zhen Liang suppressing the astonishment in his heart, and not to mention the chaos in the Jade Archive Hall due to the Jindan Cultivator's life tablet breaking, Xiaohua and Xiangyang returned to the Myriad Thunder Valley from the deafening Thunder Palace. Looking at the lazy, big, fat spirit-seeking mouse with dull eyes lying on his hand, Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Eldest senior brother, is this a spirit-seeking mouse? Xiaohua held back for a long time and finally couldn't help but complain, isn't this just a spirit-seeking mouse? Pfft. Xiangyang also laughed and pointed at Xiaohua, saying, little junior brother, have you seen a spirit-seeking mouse before? If you haven't, don't show any fear. This spirit-seeking mouse is born with a big body. It doesn't have any abilities, so it doesn't need to fight or defend against enemies. It only needs to find places with sufficient spirit chi and some spirit veins. What do you want it to look like? But, this appearance, is really throwing the spirit-seeking mouse's mouse. Xiaohua didn't say whether he had seen a spirit-seeking mouse before and only covered his mouth as he laughed. This is already not bad. My 10,000 Thunder Valley Silent Thunder is quite powerful. Ordinary spirit-seeking mice are useless. This spirit-seeking mouse was used by junior brother Cui last time. Xiangyang also looked at the fat spirit-seeking mouse and laughed. But after saying that, Xiangyang's face was a little embarrassed. Sure enough, Xiaohua's face was not too happy as he muttered, so it's something that someone else left behind. How? How can you say that? Xiangyang blinked his eyes and was somewhat in disbelief. Then, he looked left and right and said, the rest of the matter is simple. Junior brother Xiao knows that once you release the spirit-seeking mouse, it will naturally find a place with abundant spirit qi. You only need to record the location on the jade slip and place it into the spirit-seeking mouse's mouth. It will then return to the deafening Thunder Palace on its own. After a few days, a disciple will bring a cave-opening puppet over to help you open the cave. As for the size of the cave, you can decide for yourself. I have some matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave first. Obviously, Xiangyang was afraid that he would say something wrong to make Xiaohua unhappy, so he waved his hand and flew off into the distance. TCH, what spirit-seeking mouse? It's simply a spirit-seeking cat. Xiaohua waited until Xiangyang had flown far away before he waved his hand and little silver flew out of the space. TCH, the spirit-seeking mouse in Xiaohua's heart suddenly opened its eyes, and the fur on its body stood on end. Its two small eyes widened as it stared straight at little silver, who was several times smaller than it. Little silver flew in the air and looked left and right in bewilderment, as if it was very unhappy that Xiaohua had taken it out. Hearing the spirit-seeking mouse's TCH, it turned its head slightly and didn't care. It only stretched out its two small front paws and put them next to its mouth with a pu sound, which sounded like a snort. The spirit-seeking mouse immediately jumped down from Xiaohua's hand and obediently lay down in the air. Its whole body was trembling, and its puffed-up fur immediately fell down smoothly. With a whoosh, little silver flew to Xiaohua's hand, which was precisely where the spirit-seeking mouse had been in a daze just now. Its small tail curled around Xiaohua's little finger with great familiarity before it obediently crouched down. Don't lie down. Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Hurry up and find me where the spiritual energy is. Unfortunately, little silver didn't pay attention to him. It didn't understand what Xiaohua was saying at all. Xiaohua looked at the space again. Well, little yellow was sleeping again, so it probably couldn't hear what he was saying. Go. Xiaohua waved his big sleeve and threw the spirit-seeking mouse forward, saying, Go find a cave for this young master. It was a pity that the spirit-seeking mouse didn't listen to him at all this time. It still lay obediently in the air, not daring to move at all. Damn it. Xiaohua smiled. He naturally knew what was going on. He had no choice but to put little silver into the space and throw the spirit-seeking mouse out again. When the spirit-seeking mouse suddenly saw little silver disappear, it was still surprised. It actually flew in the air for a moment before shaking its fur and looking high and mighty again. Fuck, isn't this the legendary, when the tiger is absent, the monkey becomes the overlord? Xiaohua smiled again, but before he could smile, the meridians in his body trembled again. Then his whole body shook involuntarily, as if he was having a spasm, and an earthy yellow color flashed across his face again. I have to hurry and think of a way. Xiaohua knew that the accumulated spiritual energy of heaven and earth in his meridians and body was restless again. Fortunately, the spirit-seeking mouse, which hadn't been forced by little silver, could still be considered loyal to its duty. It found a cave for Xiaohua in a secluded place in 10,000 Thunder Valley. Xiaohua's divine sense swept out. It wasn't close to Helpless, Xiangyang, and Cui Hongshan's cave residences. He unconsciously nodded, carved the location into the spirit-seeking mouse's mouth, and let it go back. After that, Xiaohua didn't go far. He sat cross-legged in the cave residence and closed his eyes to rest. After a moment, Xiaohua took out the executioner dream. Looking at the flying sword that could do as it pleased and seemed omnipotent, just like him dancing in the air. Xiaohua thought to himself, the flying sword of a sword cultivator is indeed different from the flying swords of a Dao sect. This executioner dream now seems to be able to connect with the gods, and its flying speed is far greater than before. Separate, Xiaohua silently chanted, and 32 swift and fierce sword lights instantly flew out, filling the space around Xiaohua. The most important thing is that among these 32 flying swords, only one is the main sword. The other 31 are all secondary swords, and the main sword is the eye of the array. Xiaohua was a little hesitant, and then he thought of that strange thing that wasn't controlled by divine sense. If that thing is refined together with the devil hammer, I wonder what it will be like. Chapter 2189. Little Junior Apprentice Brother. Just as Xiaohua was deep in thought, Yan Qinglian's voice rang out again. Xiaohua opened his eyes and saw Zhuo Minghui, Xiang Yang, and Yan Qinglian in the distance. Xiaohua didn't dare to be negligent. He hurriedly got up and respectfully greeted her. How come Master's wife is also free today? Even if I'm not free, I still have to come and take a look. Zhuo Minghui smiled and said, You are about to open your mansion. This is a grand occasion for the second-generation disciples of my 10,000 Thunder Valley. Although your master didn't say anything, he was overjoyed in his heart. I don't dare to trouble master. Xiaohua hurriedly said. Even if that wasn't the case, I would still be happy with the things you gave me. No matter what, I have to come and see what else you need in your cave abode. Zhuo Minghui pursed her lips and smiled. I didn't expect you to have such a trick up your sleeve. You actually schemed against your master. Seeing Zhuo Minghui's smiling face, Xiaohua knew that she wasn't blaming him, so he quickly explained, Disciple didn't dare to reveal it. Well, no need to say more. Zhuo Minghui waved her hand. The previous item was already eye-catching, and now this item is even more troublesome. Let's wait until we can't hide it anymore. Yes, I understand. Of course, Xiaohua knew the importance of this Thunder Beast's inner core to the Imperial Thunder Sect. It was much more important than the Earth Crystal Yao Milk. Even with Thunder Meng Daoist status, he might have some thoughts about it. How could he dare to say anything? Why hasn't it started yet? Yan Qinglian looked around and said, This concubine thought it was over. You didn't urge him? Xiang Yang asked with a frown. But Xiaohua thought otherwise and waved his hand and said, It doesn't matter. Whenever you come will do. If it really doesn't work, I'll do it myself. It's not right for me to do it myself. Zhuo Minghui didn't know about Xiaohua's background. She smiled and said, Besides, our myriad Thunder Valley doesn't have any puppets. We rely on the methods of the Deafening Thunder Palace. Husband, let's go take a look at the Deafening Thunder Palace. Yan Qinglian said considerately, the opening of the abode is a big matter, and Master is still very concerned about it. Moreover, although Shui is in seclusion, if Sun Shu, Qian Diheng and other junior brothers' good friends come over and see that the abode is not ready, wouldn't they become a joke? Speaking up to this point, Xiaohua came to his senses. He had been busy with his own affairs, plus there was a hidden danger of his strength increasing dramatically, so he had forgotten about this matter. He still hadn't informed these two people. Thus, Xiaohua smiled and said, There's no need for that. Disciple hasn't notified the two of them yet. Oh. Zhuo Minghui frowned slightly. That's where you're wrong. These two are the direct disciples of Sunlei Palace and Qianlei Palace. Especially Qian Diheng, his status is extraordinary. It is not easy for them to be on good terms with you. Although we don't have to shamelessly approach them, the necessary etiquette is still necessary. Yes, disciple understands. Xiaohua hastily slapped his storage pouch and sent out 2 messaging talismans as he promised Zhuo Minghui. However, he disagreed in his heart. Sun Shu is fine, but that Qian Diheng, damn it, it's impossible for him to not plunder my treasures. Sure enough, in less than half a day, Sun Shu and Qian Diheng arrived one after another. At this time, Xiang Yang and Yan Qinglian went to the Thunder Palace to urge him, while Zhuo Minghui returned to her abode, leaving Xiaohua alone to sit cross-legged. Sensing the two's divine wills, Xiaohua smiled and greeted them in midair. Ha ha ha! Qian Diheng's laughter was heard. Junior brother Xiao. You've built your foundation as expected. Damn it, I told you. You're definitely fine. Quick. What treasures did you get from your training this time? Quickly take them out and let senior brother see. See if you've been cheated, sweat. Xiaohua almost fell from midair. He originally thought that when Qian Diheng said, quick, he wanted to know how he built his foundation. Who knew that he actually followed up with that sentence? Isn't this the legendary dog that can't change its habit of eating shit? Xiaohua secretly criticized. Greetings to junior brother Xiao. Congratulations to junior brother Xiao for building your foundation. Sun Shu had a smile at the corner of his mouth, his face carrying a trace of redness, and his eyes didn't have the slightest bit of astonishment. Obviously, he already knew from Xue that Xiaohua had built his foundation. Same to you, same to you. Xiaohua smiled and returned the greeting. Seeing this, Sun Shu's eyes immediately stared at Xiaohua, not wanting to leave for even half a moment. Seeing that Xiaohua actually ignored him, Qian Diheng was angry. He jumped up and said, Xiaohua, I left the old man and hurriedly came to find you. Looking at senior sister Sun's appearance, you've already built your foundation. Why didn't you tell me? Now that I'm here first, you actually talk to senior sister first. This kind of behavior that forgets righteousness in the face of love isn't the Xiaohua in my eyes. Tisk, Xiaohua said disdainfully, what does Xiaohua look like in your eyes? And Qian Diheng's face was profound and full of worship. He slightly narrowed his eyes. In my eyes, Xiaohua should be generous, doesn't bother about trifles, and regards brotherhood as the number one. Even if he didn't eat it himself, he would still give the spiritual grass to his brothers. That's what you've seen in your dreams. Xiaohua smiled. He took out a jade box and handed it to Sun Shu. Senior sister Sun, this is a gift from junior brother. Please kindly accept it. It can't be. Junior brother Xiaohua, you've really disappointed senior brother too much. Qian Diheng had a defeated look, but his eyes were looking at that jade box. Many thanks, junior brother Xiao. Sun Shu took the jade box. She simply didn't look at it, and her face was tight with sweetness. That. Qian Diheng probed. Senior sister Sun, don't you want to see what it is? Why would I want to see it? As long as it's given by junior brother Xiao, it's all good. Sun Shu was about to put the jade box into her storage bag. Hee, senior sister should also take a look. If you can use it earlier, Xiaohua said with a beaming smile. What is this? Sun Shu said curiously. Right now, I don't have any use for spiritual pills that can increase my power. That's right. Qian Diheng looked at the spiritual grass in the jade box, also puzzled. TSK, you still have the nerve to say that you're from the Heavenly Thunder Palace. Xiaohua curled his lips and gave Qian Diheng a disdainful look. He raised his palm and stroked his incomparably young face left and right. This. What is the meaning of this? Qian Diheng was even more confused. He really didn't know what the youth-retaining grass was. Sun Shu was puzzled at first, but she didn't know why, but she suddenly understood. It was simply a female cultivator's sixth sense. Hurriedly. It was simply like a sudden clap of thunder, and Sun Shu immediately put the jade box into her storage bag. Ah! Don't! Qian Diheng was anxious. He cupped his hands and said, Senior Sister Sun, you can't be like this. What the hell is this thing? Hee hee. Sun Shu looked at Xiaohua. Xiaohua was also beaming. He was still stroking his face shamelessly and said with a smile, What do you think female cultivators like me care about the most? Chapter 2190. What do you mean? How would I know about you female cultivators? Qian Diheng was confused. What do girls care about the most? Sun Shu didn't mind teasing Qian Diheng. Qian Diheng scratched his head. He really didn't understand. In the end, Sun Shu rolled her eyes at him helplessly. If I guessed correctly, junior brother Xiao gave me a youth-retaining grass. What? Youth-retaining grass? Qian Diheng was startled. He directly flew to Xiaohua's side, grabbed Xiaohua's shoulder, and said with a grin, Junior brother Xiao, we are good brothers. This is a rare good thing in the world. How can senior brother be left out? TCH, Xiaohua pushed Qian Diheng away. Female cultivators care about appearance. What are you, a big man, thinking about? Don't tell me you want to be a pretty boy for your whole life. What's wrong with being a pretty boy? Pretty boys are the preference of the heavens. Qian Diheng mumbled. The heavens made me so handsome, so I want him to stay this way for a lifetime. Besides, if you're a pretty boy for your whole life, why can't you let others be pretty boys for their whole life? All right. Xiaohua patted his storage bag and took out a jade box. I originally prepared a rare sea beast's inner core for senior brother Qian. Since you don't want it, then take this. What? Qian Diheng snatched the jade box and threw it into his storage bag. His other hand reached out and smiled. Senior brother Qian wants the youth-retaining grass. Senior brother also wants the inner core. You really have no face. Xiaohua looked at Qian Diheng's outstretched hand and shook his head helplessly. He took out 2 more jade boxes, one for Sun Shu and Qian Diheng. Sun Shu smiled. You should keep this for yourself. I don't lack pills in Sunlei Palace. Qian Diheng took the 2 boxes and put one in his storage bag. He threw the other to Sun Shu and smiled. Senior sister, don't worry. According to my understanding of Xiaohua, this guy definitely has a lot of inner cores. Otherwise, he definitely wouldn't take them out. How could Sun Shu listen to him? He turned to look at Xiaohua. Hee hee, senior sister, take it. Xiaohua didn't point it out. We haven't seen each other for several years. Consider it a greeting gift. All right. Sun Shu nodded and obediently put it away in his storage pouch. Junior brother Xiao, when did you build your foundation? Only now did Qian Diheng ask. And Xiaohua gave a simple explanation. It was even less than what he had told Wu Hai. But even so, it still took him quite a while to explain. Oh my. Qian Diheng stuck out his tongue. You really went to the QC. By the way, speaking of this, Qian Diheng suddenly remembered something. Junior brother Xiao, isn't it too wasteful to directly take the youthful grass? This stalk of face-retaining grass could be used to refine many face-retaining pills. A face-retaining pill is worth a lot of spirit stones. Nonsense. Xiao Hua sneered, where did little brother get the pill formula? Hee hee. Qian Dihing chuckled, junior brother, it's your fault for not telling senior brother. The Sun Thunder Palace might not have it, but the Heavenly Thunder Palace might not have it. Even if the Heavenly Thunder Palace doesn't have it, this senior brother can still look for it. But junior brother Xiao, this business. Xiao Hua wasn't very interested in the face-retaining pill. At that time, he was just curious. Hearing Qian Dihing's words, his eyes lit up. He stretched out 2 fingers and shook it twice without saying anything. Junior brother Xiao, you don't have to do this. It's only 20%. Qian Dihing was about to cry, little brother helped you find the pill formula and find someone to refine it. You only provided the youthful grass, it's just that 80%. No one will do it. TCH, little brother only wants the pill formula. Xiao Hua said disdainfully. Ah. Qian Dihing was stunned. He looked at Sun Shu, who was also surprised. But both of them nodded slightly and didn't ask any more. However, Qian Dihing pestered again, even if it's the pill formula, it's still worth 40%. Junior brother Xiao. Qian Dihing almost pulled Xiao Hua's arm and shook it. He was simply acting spoiled. Fine. Xiao Hua waved his hand helplessly, I'll give you 30%. Little brother doesn't care about anything else. You only care about the pill. Give me the spirit stones. Deal. Qian Dihing immediately raised his hand. Hee hee. Xiao Hua reached out and clapped hands with him. He also laughed mischievously. Something's not right. Sun Shu knew that at this time. He looked around and asked curiously, Junior brother Xiao, your cave, hasn't it been opened yet? Hee hee, no hurry, Xiao Hua didn't care at all, it's only been a few days. Senior brother went to rush me. At this time, Xiang Yang and Yan Qinglian flew back with a gloomy face. Sun Shu and Qian Dihing hurried forward to salute. Xiang Yang and Yan Qinglian didn't dare to neglect and also hurriedly returned the salute. Xiao Hua saw Xiang Yang's ugly face and smiled, what's wrong? Senior brother, did you suffer in the Thunderclap Palace? Hee hee, it's nothing. Xiang Yang shook his head, now my Thunderclap Palace has a lot of Foundation Establishment disciples. We don't have enough puppets. Junior brother Xiao might have to wait for a while. No matter. Xiao Hua said warmly, it's the same even if I go into seclusion here. Seclusion. Qian Dihing frowned, you just entered Foundation Establishment. What are you going into seclusion for? Sun Shu hurriedly said, Junior brother Xiao, what's wrong? Hee hee, nothing. Xiao Hua saw that he had a slip of the tongue and hurriedly said, Junior brother went to Gue He Si and had some understanding, I understand. Qian Dihing nodded and said, since that's the case, you should have a cave. Then he smiled nastily, Junior brother Xiao, wait a moment. Chapter 2191. Hee hee, alright then. Seeing Qian Dihing mention Gantian, Shen Minghai didn't dare to say anything. He took the spirit stones and smiled, thank you, junior brother Qian. Sigh, sometimes it's good to be a little arrogant. Xiao Hua whispered as he watched Shen Minghai lead the disciples away. That's right. Qian Dihing curled his lips and said, Junior brother Xiao is usually too low-key. That's not what a man should do. Damn it, what does it have to do with you whether I'm a man or not? Xiao Hua glared at him in annoyance. These words sounded familiar to him as if a female cultivator had said it to him before. Yes, Fairy Hong Xia and Xue Xue no. Qian Dihing revealed a lewd smile. Let's go, we'll go take a look at junior brother Zhao's cave. Yan Qinglian saw Qian Dihing's outrageous words and Sun Shu's blushing face and hurriedly said with a smile. And Sun Shu took the lead and quickly walked into the newly opened cave. Tisk, you still say it's big. Qian Dihing looked and complained again, it's only so, much smaller than mine. What do I need such a big cave for? Xiao Hua glanced at him. Of course. Qian Dihing raised his left hand as if he was going to count. Fine, Xiao Hua knew what he was going to say and hurriedly waved his hand, don't say any more. You're talking too much. If you don't want to say it then don't say it, I'm too lazy to say it. Qian Dihing began to look around, but unfortunately, after a moment, he opened his mouth again. He pointed at the cave surroundings and began to nag about what to put and what to put. He even raised his eyebrows and said, that's right, junior brother Xiao, great-grandfather has a good impression of you. When are you opening the cave? Let him come over and give you some face. I have to tell senior brother and master. Xiao Hua just said this when his body started to tremble again. Although it was very subtle, how could the cultivators not notice it? Xiao Hua, what's wrong with you? Sun Shu was anxious. He walked over in a few steps and even asked with a sobbing tone. Qian Dihing's face also had a serious expression. Nothing. After Xiao Hua finished trembling, he smiled and said, the meridians in my body is a bit, not appropriate. I need to go into seclusion for a while. I understand. Xiang Yang's eyes flashed with understanding. He nodded slightly, I'll go find master now. Don't. Xiao Hua was greatly alarmed. He hurriedly said, I'm afraid, even master can't do it. Why bother him? This. Xiang Yang had only seen Xiao Hua's methods in the Misty Mountain. He knew that early-stage foundation establishment cultivators weren't his match, and he had also seen Xiao Hua's methods after reaching foundation establishment in the Flame Forest Marsh. He knew that Su Yangyi was extraordinarily powerful, but he didn't believe that a late foundation establishment cultivator like Su Yangyi was helpless against him. He would rather think that it was Xiao Hua who was helpless and scolded him. Why don't we ask great-grandfather for help? Qian Dihing made a prompt decision. I'll go back now. Stop. Xiao Hua immediately berated, I know what I'm doing. Really? Qian Dihing hesitated, you are my god of wealth. Are you sure? Don't worry. Xiao Hua patted his shoulder and said, go back now and look for that thing. If possible, bring it over before I go into seclusion. Okay, Qian Dihing turned around and was about to leave, but after taking 2 steps, he said, then your mansion opening, it's all false reputation, what mansion opening? Xiao Hua said carelessly, life is still more important. Okay. Qian Dihing finished speaking and hurriedly flew away. Senior Sister Sun, I've made a fool of myself. Xiao Hua turned around and said, I just reached foundation establishment, and I've already caused so much trouble. It's nothing. As long as, you're sure you're fine. Sun Shu was only worried about Xiao Hua, and didn't ask for anything else. It's a pity that I can't let Senior Sister Sun participate in the mansion opening ceremony. Xiao Hua blinked, looking very disappointed. Sun Shu was full of concern, and said with a forced smile, as long as you're fine. Then she thought for a moment and said, I'm actually going into seclusion in the next few days. Junior Sister Shue's cultivation has improved greatly, and it's really a spur for me. Cultivation is like sailing against the current, if you don't advance, you'll fall back. And then Senior Sister Sun, take care. Xiao Hua cupped his hands and said. Seeing Xiaohua sending her off, Sun Shu didn't want to leave, but thinking of Xiaohua's appearance just now, she could only nod, cupped her hands again, and quickly flew away. After the two left, Yan Qinglian said in a low voice, "Junior brother, are you sure you don't need to tell master?" "What can I tell master?" Xiaohua smiled bitterly, looking at the two. And Xiangyang was also sad. He was very clear that Xiaohua now had an earth attribute constitution, and he really couldn't tell master. Since that was the case, he might as well not say it. "You're going into seclusion now?" Xiangyang asked. Xiaohua said without hesitation, "Yes, right now. I'll have to trouble senior brother to tell master's wife that I suddenly had an epiphany and must go into seclusion. As for the mansion opening ceremony, let's postpone it. Hee, I'm afraid master will be hopping mad again." Xiangyang said with a laugh, "It's hard to get a chance to show off." Xiaohua smiled helplessly and said, "If Qian Diheng didn't come, this cave mansion would still need half a year to open, and wouldn't the mansion opening ceremony also have to be postponed? I reckon I'll be able to come out of seclusion in half a year. Master's wife will tell master, there's nothing impossible." "All right." Hearing that it was only half a year, Xiangyang was relieved. He patted his storage pouch, took out a set of simple formation flags and jade slips, and said, "This is the formation I received from Thunderquake Palace, you can set it up yourself according to the jade slips." "Okay." Xiaohua took it. "How about we help you set it up?" Yan Qinglian said worriedly. Xiaohua looked at the two senior brothers' concern, and his heart warmed. He knew that if he didn't let them do it, they would definitely be worried, so he nodded and said, "Then I'll have to trouble senior brother and senior sister. We're brothers, no need to be so polite." Xiangyang smiled, took the formation flags and talismans, and went to set it up with Yan Qinglian. In the time it took to eat a meal, the cave mansion's formation had already been set up. Yan Qinglian said again that she wanted to move some things from her cave mansion, but Xiaohua stopped her. He only said that he would talk about it after he came out of seclusion, and asked Xiangyang and Yan Qinglian to go back. He raised his hand, waved the formation flags, and sealed the entire cave mansion. "AI, junior brother." Yan Qinglian looked at Xiaohua's hurried appearance, and couldn't help but worry. Junior brother Xiao is such a cautious person. For this kind of situation to occur, I'm afraid there's some problem. Although Xiangyang was honest and considerate, his thoughts were also meticulous. The more he thought about it, the more worried he became. If he really has a problem, why is he in such a hurry? Even Xue can't wait for him to come out of seclusion. But if Reverend Jing Ru were to use some sort of method. Chapter 2192. I.O. That's right. Yan Qinglian came to her senses and covered her mouth. I knew it. Reverend Jing Su's reputation is so bad. How could he let junior martial brother go so easily? He must have a powerful method. But, what can we do? Xiangyang was even more certain. After all, Xiaohua had said that there was no way around it. If it wasn't Reverend Jing Su's method, then what was it? Alas! Yan Qinglian sighed and looked at Xiaohua's cave again. It was incomparably desolate. Let's go. Xiangyang waved his hand and said, "This matter is the same as before. Don't tell master's wife in detail. Just say that junior martial brother Xiao is going into seclusion. Don't mention anything else. Just in case you make a mistake by saying too much." I know. Let master's wife tell master. Yan Qinglian flew away and answered in a low voice. Xiaohua sealed the cave entrance and sat down cross-legged. He operated his mental cultivation method and the true essence in his meridians flowed smoothly. However, no matter how he urged his mental cultivation method, the earth attributes spiritual energy of heaven and earth that had accumulated in his meridians couldn't be mobilized, let alone refined. Immediately, Xiaohua sensed the faint sound of thunder in the cave. However, although the faint sound of thunder could stir up the deposited spiritual energy, it was only enough to stir it up. It wasn't enough to activate the spiritual energy. However, this wasn't outside of Xiaohua's expectations. He pondered for a moment and thought to himself, my current method should be to refine the accumulated spiritual energy of heaven and earth in my meridians and physical body. However, if I want to advance both at the same time, I need to multitask. Otherwise, I won't be able to cure it completely. Rather than that, I might as well split my primordial spirit. One primordial spirit will cultivate the dragon transformation art, and the other will cultivate the celestial body empowerment technique. In addition, the sword heart energy seed technique has been successful. This means that I can combine the primordial spirit strengthening technique, the primordial spirit splitting technique, and the ghost cultivation technique. Since that's the case, I should take advantage of my secluded cultivation to split these primordial spirits out. Every strand of primordial spirit will be dedicated to a specific task. It's better than me cultivating alone. Immediately after, Xiaohua thought for a long time. He sat cross-legged, made an extremely strange gesture with both hands, and pointed at his forehead. The spiritual power in his body gradually surged to the gesture in his hands, and his divine sense also contracted. After another incense stick of time, Xiaohua's face showed a painful expression, and bean-sized sweat droplets appeared on his forehead again. Just like before, an unparalleled pain, a sharp pain that was tearing himself apart, and a feeling that was worse than death came from Xiaohua's head. Although Xiaohua was mentally prepared for this pain, when it really came, Xiaohua was still unable to resist it. A feeling of extreme powerlessness arose in his heart. Rumble. There was a tremor in the air, and Little Silver once again jumped between the spirit plants in alarm. Little Yellow was also startled awake. Xiaohua didn't have time to talk to it in detail. Quick! Xiaohua's hands trembled as he made the gesture. As the incantation entered his body, Xiaohua felt his mind go blank. His head swayed, and it was as if the entire world had become two overlapping worlds. Seeing that a strand of primordial spirit had smoothly flown out, Xiaohua was secretly delighted. He then used his secret technique to channel that strand of primordial spirit into his meridians. Originally, Xiaohua had expected some unexpected things to happen during this process, since his meridians weren't like the dream executioners, and would reject it a little. Who would have thought that when the primordial spirit entered his meridians, there wouldn't be any abnormalities at all? There was an incomparably heavy pressure, as if a huge rock was pressing down on him, and that strand of primordial spirit fell into a deep sleep. Great! If it wasn't for the lingering pain, Xiaohua would have clapped his hands and laughed heartily. He knew that the strand of primordial spirit had already successfully fused with his meridians. He only needed to use the secret technique to nurture and strengthen that primordial spirit. After it woke up, it would be able to independently and actively use the dragon transformation art, just like how he was using his own cultivation method. Compared to the blood shadow art, it couldn't be mentioned in the same breath. Fusing primordial spirit into the meridians, I'm afraid that in the entire Xiaoyu continent, only this young master can do it, right? Other people wouldn't even think about it. Xiaohua was secretly pleased. This is also because the blood shadow art is used so smoothly that it can go so smoothly. Mother. At this time, Goldie's dry voice sounded. What is this for? Xiaohua laughed. This is Mother's ever-changing. Don't be afraid, I reckon there will be more tremors like this in the future. Oh. Seeing that Xiaohua was fine, Goldie closed its eyes and prepared to sleep again. Don't be anxious. Xiaohua hurriedly said. Tell little Silver to help Mother find a place. Xiaohua hurriedly described a place with abundant spiritual energy. Okay, Goldie chirped a few times at Little Silver. Little Silver nodded and kept somersaulting among the spiritual plants. Then, Goldie fainted. Looking at Little Dusk sleeping, Xiaohua was extremely envious. Damn it, look at Goldie. He only needs to eat and then sleep to improve. This young master has to put in a lot of effort and still has to endure the pain. This person is really not much different from other people. At this time, Xiaohua's primordial spirit was in severe pain and he couldn't circulate his energy. Xiaohua simply lay down on the ground to rest. At this time, the cave's restriction made some noise. It can't be Qian Diheng, right? Xiaohua thought. This guy is such a miser. Even more so than this young master. Opening the cave's restriction, as expected, Qian Diheng was standing in front of the cave, but his face was full of worry. Seeing Xiaohua's face as white as paper and even more concerned, he clapped his hands and took out 2 jade slips. He said, Junior Marshal Brother Xiao, just now I went to see great-grandfather. From what he said, I'm afraid that you've taken too many pills and there's too much medicinal energy in your body. If you don't remove it in time, not only will it affect your realm, it will also destroy your meridians. At this time, you shouldn't cultivate anymore. Instead, you should first expel the medicinal energy. This jade slip contains a secret technique of my thunder-shocking palace, especially for your situation. So it's like this. Xiaohua was really grateful in his heart. He took the 2 jade slips and scanned them with his divine sense. One of them was naturally the pill formula of the face-retaining pill, and the other was a cultivation method. Xiaohua roughly looked at it and frowned. He said, according to this secret technique, won't all these medicinal energy be expelled? It's really a waste. When Qian Diheng heard this, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He scolded, Xiaohua, you don't want to live anymore. What time is it now, and you're still so greedy? Great-grandfather said that because you forcefully wanted to build your foundation, you took too many foundation building pills, which caused the medicinal energy to accumulate. Although you've already built your foundation, your meridians are newly formed and you still don't have the energy to refine these medicinal energy. If you don't expel it, what else can you do? Don't think about it. If the old doesn't go, the new won't come. Don't think about wasting these pills. Then, he said, as for that face-retaining pill, Junior Marshal Brother doesn't need to be in a hurry to refine it. Right now, you can't easily use magic power. It's better to wait until after you enter seclusion. Then what did you bring the pill formula for? Xiaohua asked curiously. Damn it, if I don't take advantage of great-grandfather's good mood, when will I get it? If I give it to you, I won't think about it anymore. Besides, with your greedy face, wouldn't it be more comfortable to take the pill formula? So that you won't be willing to part with the medicinal energy in your meridians. Qian Diheng waved his hand and said, okay, quickly enter seclusion. By all means, don't be unwilling to use the secret method. After he finished speaking, he turned around and flew away for fear of delaying Xiaohua's seclusion. This guy really knows my heart. Xiaohua rubbed his nose. His heart felt warm as he returned to the immortal's cave. The pain in his head seemed to have lessened a lot. Only at this time did Xiaohua have the mind to look at his own immortal's cave. This immortal's cave was no different from Xiang Yang's immortal's cave. Except for the place being bigger, the internal structure was exactly the same. As soon as he entered, he saw a hall used to receive guests. Then, there was a small door leading to the back. The back was divided into two halves. One half was a nursery with flat ground for planting spiritual plants. The other half was divided into several spaces. Looking at it, it seemed to be a quiet room for refining pills and cultivating. However, at this time, it was empty inside, waiting for Xiaohua to arrange it at will in the future. Really not creative. I reckon that all the Immortals' Caves of Thunderous Palace disciples are like this. Xiaohua instantly thought of Xiang Yang's Immortals' Cave and sighed. There was a trace of helplessness on his face as he clearly thought of Haoming City's Immortals' Cave. Forget it, how can this young master fix this now? When I have time in the future. Thinking this, Xiaohua suddenly laughed. Damn it, if this young master's entire Immortals' Cave comes out again, wouldn't it be the legendary "A crafty rabbit has 3 burrows"? Then, Xiaohua's mouth trembled rapidly a few times. It was actually very similar to a rabbit's 3-petaled mouth. Come out, Little Silver, Xiaohua waved his hand, and Little Silver appeared in midair again. But at this time, Little Silver was clearly no longer astonished. His 2 bright mouse eyes turned, and without waiting for Xiaohua's instructions, he rushed out in a flash. There was no need for Xiaohua to tell him anything at all. Io, don't be in such a hurry. Xiaohua hurriedly raised his hand to stop him, but seeing that Little Silver had already scurried out of the cave that hadn't been sealed yet, he could only sigh. Ai, you still listen to your mother. Last time, you didn't move no matter how I told you to search for the spirit vein. Forget it. I can't cultivate for the time being, so I'll go take a look. Xiaohua then flew out of the Immortals' Cave and opened the array. After Little Silver left the Immortals' Cave, he sniffed the air with his little nose, which had faint golden threads, and then flew into the depths of 10,000 Thunder Valley. Seeing this, Xiaohua's eyes turned. He had been a disciple of 10,000 Thunder Valley for a long time, but he had never been on duty there, so he didn't know how his Shifu was on duty. If he entered 10,000 Thunder Valley now, he might run into something helpless. But given Xiaohua's current cultivation, how could a late Foundation establishment cultivator discover him? Thus, Xiaohua only hesitated for a moment before his figure flashed and he gave chase. That's not right. Xiaohua followed Little Silver into the depths of 10,000 Thunder Valley, and the faint sound of thunder gradually grew louder. Both silent and loud thunder attacked Xiaohua, and even his state of mind was a little disturbed. Xiaohua sensed that something wasn't right. Is Little Silver mistaken? How can there be a spirit vein here? Even if there is a spirit vein, it's impossible for me to open an immortal residence here, right? It took Little Silver half a day before he finally bit off a strand of spirit chi in the array. With a crack, a bolt of lightning passed through the array and struck Little Silver. Xiaohua was already prepared. He stretched out his hand to block in front of Little Silver. A wave of numbness spread up his arm, and a few strands of spirit chi were actually drawn out of his body by the lightning. At the same time, Xiaohua swung his right hand again, and several rabbit spirit talismans hit the flaw that Little Silver had bitten out, blocking the area that was already starting to close up. Little Silver's body was like lightning, and before the lightning could leak out, his small figure scuttled into the array. Slow down a little. Xiaohua smiled bitterly. He cast several more spirit talismans to widen the flaw, and then he also flew into the array. See, Xiaohua had already imagined the core of the 10,000 Thunder Valley countless times before. But when he saw it with his own eyes, he couldn't help sucking in a cold breath. It was a deep valley surrounded by lightning, and the bottom couldn't be seen. But in the middle of the valley, which was several li away, there was a huge cone-shaped mountain peak that seemed to stand out of thin air. Countless bolts of lightning struck the mountain peak from top to bottom, and there wasn't the slightest gap at all. This is the 10,000 Thunder Valley. It's not just 10,000 bolts of lightning. Xiaohua didn't dare release his Buddhist awareness or divine will. He only looked at the mountain peak in the distance, which stood tall amidst the millions of bolts of lightning, and sighed with emotion in his heart. Furthermore, the millions of bolts of lightning didn't fall from the sky, but from the void as they struck the mountain peak. Lightning flowed over the mountain peak and fell straight down into the deep black abyss below. Little Silver. Xiaohua cried out in surprise. Little Silver's small body shuttled through the lightning with great familiarity. He had already flown more than 1,000 zhang, and his target was the mountain peak in the center of the 10,000 Thunder Valley. At this point, how could Xiaohua not know what Little Silver was thinking? Little Silver probably really regarded the core of the 10,000 Thunder Valley as a treasure. Or perhaps, Little Silver wanted Xiaohua to open up his cave residence here. Fuck, if that was the case, it would be the biggest joke in the world. Wouldn't Thunder Palace immediately pull out Xiaohua's tendons and skin him alive? Squeak squeak. Little Silver flew another li, unease on his face. He didn't dare move forward anymore and just stood in midair, his two front paws clasped together as if he was bowing, his eyes flashing. I understand. Xiaohua nodded. With a flick of his sleeve, he put Little Silver into his space. Then he activated the Bright Thunder Escape and flew toward the mountain peak. The Bright Thunder Escape was swift to begin with, and in this space filled with lightning, he was even more like a fish in water. An unprecedented feeling of comfort actually emerged when he used the lightning escape technique. Xiaohua's heart suddenly stirred as he thought to himself, the lightning escape technique should be used to escape amidst lightning. The Imperial Thunder sect had this 10,000 Thunder Valley. Was it where they cultivated the lightning escape in the beginning? It's just that the secret technique to avoid lightning was lost, and many cultivators didn't dare train here, so this place was abandoned. Don't you remember what Shifu said? Guarding the 10,000 Thunder Valley is a very difficult task. At first, it was highly valued, but later on, it wasn't so well received anymore. Just as he was thinking this, a huge bolt of lightning suddenly appeared in the air. Xiaohua didn't have time to dodge at all before it struck him. A wave of numbness and soreness came from his body, and he fell from midair. Hissed, Xiaohua didn't dare be careless. His Phoenix Dharma body flew out of his body and flapped its wings to stabilize his body. Crack, crack. Before Xiaohua could react at all, several bolts of lightning appeared and struck his Phoenix Dharma body repeatedly. Sizzle. Electric light flowed into Xiaohua's body. Chapter 2194. Ah, great! Xiaohua was overjoyed. This lightning not only mobilized the heaven and earth spiritual energy in his body, it also accelerated the refining of spiritual energy. This lightning is obviously different from the heavenly lightning of the lightning tribulation, and even more different from the thunderstorm of the Qinhe Sea. Xiaohua was somewhat enlightened. Looks like there are many types of lightning in this world. Let's go. Xiaohua obviously couldn't cultivate here. His figure swayed again, and he flew towards the mountain peak. During this period of time, the lightning became even more concentrated. The phoenix body couldn't take care of it in the end, so Xiaohua had no choice but to release the Buddha Sarira. The lightning struck the Sarira, and like a brush, it gradually filled the Sarira with gold color. Escape. When he got close to the mountain, Xiaohua used the earth escape technique, and his figure jumped into it. Fortunately, Even though there were tens of thousands of lightning strikes, the mountain peak was still a mountain peak. Otherwise, Xiaohua wouldn't be able to escape. Once he entered the mountain peak, Xiaohua didn't hesitate anymore and directly escaped downwards. He only stopped when he couldn't escape anymore. The inside of the mountain peak was the same as the outside of the mountain peak. All kinds of lightning struck Xiaohua from different void flashes, as if the mountain peak was void. The lightning flickered, lingering around Xiaohua's entire body. Xiaohua closed his eyes tightly, and the lightning on his body either merged into his body or merged into the mountain peak again. The earth crystal Yao Milk spiritual energy in Xiaohua's body also slowly flowed within the lightning. It was refined by Xiaohua's celestial body bestowment technique. On one hand, it was refined into his body, and on the other hand, it was sent into his meridians. Looking at Xiaohua's meridians again, there was also lightning striking. The spiritual energy in his meridians was the same as in his body, and it was drawn out like a gurgling stream. The hidden danger of Xiaohua's cultivation was actually slowly dissolving in this unimaginable way. Although Xiaohua didn't deliberately use his mental cultivation method, his cultivation was still slowly improving. 10 days later, Xiaohua waited for the pain to disappear, and split his primordial spirit again. This time, his primordial spirit merged into his body. He focused on practicing the celestial body bestowment technique. This was also Xiaohua's attempt. In his mind, the celestial body bestowment technique was different from the earth attribute mental cultivation method. He couldn't multitask, and since he had to practice the celestial body bestowment technique and mental cultivation method, he might as well try to merge his primordial spirit with his body. Who would have thought that it would happen so quickly? This was truly beyond his expectations. Even Xiaohua himself suspected that his physical body was alive just like his meridians. Another 10 days passed, and Xiaohua split his primordial spirit again. This time, the split primordial spirit fused into his bones. The bone tempering technique of the Sunset Island was different from the Big Dipper magical fish technique. It was a type of mental cultivation method that was similar to striking. Now that the lightning had fallen, it was the best time to practice the bone tempering technique. Xiaohua didn't want to miss such a good opportunity. Another 10 days passed, and Xiaohua split his primordial spirit again. This time, Xiaohua wanted to merge his primordial spirit with the Phoenix Dharma body. However, when he thought about how the Phoenix Dharma body already had several types of soul essences, Xiaohua admitted that his primordial spirit was inferior to the Phoenix Dharma body. Thus, after a brief thought, he sent his primordial spirit into the Buddha Sarira. Another 10 days passed and Xiaohua split his Yuan divinity again. This time, the Yuan divinity was fused into Xiaohua's dimension, the heavenly Tao starry sky. The heavenly Tao starry sky was originally formless, but Xiaohua already had a trace of his primordial spirit follow the fire origin into the space and merge with the starry sky. This trace of primordial spirit also entered the starry sky extremely smoothly. Another 10 days passed, and Xiaohua split his primordial spirit again. This time, the split primordial spirit fused into the hand of karma. This hand of karma was truly vast. Xiaohua didn't expect to be able to control the entire hand of karma, but if he could have a trace of his primordial spirit in the hand of karma, he should have sufficient time to comprehend karma, right? Another 10 days passed, and Xiaohua split his primordial spirit again. This time, the split primordial spirit didn't merge into any place, but stayed alone in the space. Xiaohua waited for this primordial spirit to awaken and strengthen, then he would comprehend many of his jade slips. Finally, another 10 days passed, and Xiaohua thought for a long time. He felt that apart from the 8 sword pellets, there was nothing else he needed to comprehend with his primordial spirit. Just as he was about to merge his primordial spirit with the unrepaired sword pellets, Xiaohua's heart stirred, and he thought of his own space. This space was behind his head, but it wasn't under his control. If he could have a primordial spirit as the master, wouldn't he be able to do whatever he wanted? However, when he truly tried to control it, he ran into trouble. This trace of primordial spirit couldn't merge into the space, and was left alone outside like the primordial spirit he used to comprehend the jade slips. Helpless, Xiaohua thought of the mysterious place where the soul strands had penetrated. Thus, he sent his primordial spirit into the dark clouds along with the soul strands. What Xiaohua didn't see, or perhaps what Xiaohua didn't expect, was that in Xiaohua's lower dantian, on both sides of the extremely small virtual spot, 2 more virtual spots flashing with lightning bolts appeared. However, they were even smaller, and even more inaudible. After arranging the lightning beast's inner cores, Xiaohua once again took out the Great Wisdom Sword. In his mind, he carefully recalled the Demon Realm's blood fusion technique. He opened his mouth, and a mouthful of blood essence touched the Great Wisdom Sword. Immediately after, Xiaohua's hands waved again. However, this time, Xiaohua didn't make any strange hand seals. Instead, he used the hand seals that controlled the lightning bolts just now. Under Xiaohua's control, numerous lightning bolts fell down, striking the Great Wisdom Sword. The lightning bolts were very uniform, and also contained an indescribable rhythm. If one were to listen to it, it would actually sound like a sonorous and powerful rhythm. Even if one were to look at it with their eyes, it would be a magnificent scene of splashes of splendor. This lightning strike technique was precisely the Demon Realm's blood fusion technique. However, Xiaohua had changed the Demon Realm's demon weapon to lightning. Following Xiaohua's blood fusion technique, the blood essence gradually plated a layer of faint golden light film on the surface of the Great Wisdom Sword. Next, Xiaohua took out that strange object again, and similarly spat out a mouthful of blood essence. Just like the Great Wisdom Sword, the lightning bolt struck it, and not long after, another layer of golden light film plated on the fist-sized object. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.